Good morning, Vietnam!
Rise and shine.
I'm the leader of the Repeal the 19th.
I think it was awesome. Sorry, whoever's offended by that concept, I don't care. I thought it was awesome.
Because we have a tendency to think that way around here.
My nigga.
Y'all the ones bringing this stuff in here, but I'm the poster child for it.
Where are you from, bro?
Oh, I'm from Tennessee.
Oh, that's a sick accent, bro. I haven't heard that before. That's awesome, dude.
It's my team. It's my quarterback.
And you're trying to get a controversial statement out of me. But
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
Bring your ass.
hey,
You serious?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Game On. This is your Sports Morning Espresso Shot. I'm your host, Will, from Game On. He's Cricket from sportspicks.locals.com. And we're here to bring you the latest and greatest going on in the sports world. And, you know, Cricket, we were due. We were getting treated way too well. Way too well. Thursday night football, great game. Friday night football, great game. Sunday night football went to overtime, great game. We were due for a dud. Right, we were due for a dud in a primetime spot, and it wasn't too bad. I think at least first half we were kind of entertained, and the Niners just took care of business. But we'll get into all of that. Plus, we have the great Robert Barnes joining us today, and we'll be talking all things football here in about a half hour when he joins us. But before we get into all of that, Cricket, how are we doing this morning?
Good, man. Good. Game actually worked out pretty good last night for me, man. I wound up laddering the 49ers out a little bit there. Hit my first TD score. Took old Breece Hall for first TD score. Had Debo anytime TD score. So last night's game worked out pretty well, sir. Pretty well. How you doing?
God, it was really so hard for us to get that Juwan. I saw you put that parlay of the Juwan Jennings in there.
Breece Hall, man, he got close, man.
He had 5 catches, 64, and he caught the ball like. Oh man, he would catch it and like stop at like the 10, and I'm like, oh, they're not going back to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, God, you know, this is a Debo touchdown or a Kittle or something like that at that point. But yeah, Juwan had a good game, man. His overprops would have came through for you, even after he got a little banged up early on there. So
AK's
all right on that thing.
Yeah, AK is happy here. AK is very happy. I have so much to say. Well, say it then. Say it with your chest.
Say it with your chest, man.
God, when I saw that the right before the game, you know, after the Christian McCaffery news came out, we'll get into that the line still stayed above 3. I go, oh, yes, the Niners are going to win this game by a lot, because the fact that this thing isn't plummeting. Granted, you know, he's probably the only player that outside of quarterback that's worth like 1.5 points. Maybe Trent Williams too, maybe him. But still, it's like. It was the fact that money was coming in on the 49ers right before the game started. I go, oh, someone knows that they're about to whoop these Jets.
That's what I always get scared off these games. There was a split second there where I was like, fuck, do I want to cash all my 49ers bets out and not even mess with this thing? And I was like, no. How many times you see a star player get taken out of professional sports and the team still blows the doors off? I was like, it's still the 49ers, man.
Especially week one, because week one is different because the 49ers knew that they knew probably weeks ago they weren't going to have CMC for this game. So they had plenty of time to prepare. Mason said he got the news on Friday
night. Yeah. He's in there. She's like, when did you know you were going to play? And he was like, about Friday night. And everybody was like, wait a minute. Y'all didn't tell us till about 3 hours ago.
Yeah. Which is actually like, Maybe there are still some secrets in the NFL when it comes to sports gambling. Not everyone gets the news on them. I heard some people, so some offshore books that do have like backup players, like player props up. I heard like Bet 365 had Mason over 13.5 rush yards at like your standard minus 110. And the people that bet it, they sent a thing last night saying, hey, actually those were incorrect odds. We're still gonna, grade it and pay out the over 13.5, but the true odds of that should have been minus 5,000.
I started to say they probably paid them out like a fraction of the bet or something.
They did.
That's garbage, dude.
That's the one nice thing about when you pay with like a regulated book, like in Vegas, they have to pay it out. And I was listening to a guy talk about it. He goes, yeah, they have to pay out. It's the ticket, whatever the ticket posted, it is it. He was comparing it to the stock market. It's like, I don't know how we can get all these stock prices right, but you can't. A sports book can't get all the sports, lines right. And if you post a bad number, that's on you. That's your job. Now you can go bet it, and they'll pay you out. And then he's like, but they'll probably ban you. And I'm like, why are they banning you? For what? For them posting a bad number? You know what I mean?
The worst things a book can ever do is ban somebody, because then you're never going to get that money back. If you let people hang out long enough, they'll give it back to you. I promise.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm sorry if you post a bad number. I would be fool. It's like Patriot says, money on the ground. You're not going to pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, y'all just left it laying there, man.
Yeah. Let's say hello to our fine folks over on Rumble. We got let's see, Buku is here. Okay, I try to tell people about Jordan Mason. The man runs angry. He was angry.
I found this out last night, Buku, when I was watching his interview. Actually, Jordan Mason's he went to high school just a couple hours up the road here at Gallatin High School. It's up around Nash, Vegas and stuff. But I saw that last night. We scrimmaged them back in high school in like one of those 8-way scrimmages or something. But yeah, I saw he went to Gallatin High School last night. I was like, that's pretty cool, man. He's close to the hometown.
Absolutely. Well, last night, we've been talking about it. San Francisco wins 32-19. It was funny. That last touchdown probably shouldn't have happened for the Jets, but the over hit off of a field goal. And I was laughing because we were in here yesterday, Cricket, and I was like, man, these kickers can make by the way, shout out to Moody for the Niners kicker. The dude got so many fantasy points.
Jake Moody's stud, man.
He's stud. I was hoping he would have missed one. But so he I was saying, like, man, these kickers can make a 56-yarder like it's nothing, but if it's a 46-yarder, they choke. Well, sure enough, last night I have the under. I have the Niners parlayed with the under, and I'm like, oh God, we're at 42. I got under 42.5. No more points. And sure enough, a field goal comes through, and it's a 42-yarder for Jake Moody. And I'm like, oh, am I going to be right about this? And I go, no, he's definitely making this
42-yarder
because I said it earlier today on the show that they seem to miss these ones.
Yep.
Middle.
Right down the pipe. Yeah, that's what gets me. I'm like, all right, man, he might be, he could not kick it any more pure on those. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But not much. I don't know. Let's get into the Christian McCaffery news. So that came out right before the game started, like a few hours before the game, and everyone was freaking out. And I think the worst part, I was laughing at multiple people. I was laughing at fantasy owners yesterday. I thought it was hilarious because this is the worst game for that to happen for you, because you've already played all your guys, so it's not like you can sub them out, and you can't just drop Christian McCaffrey and pick up Jordan Mason. I mean, you could, but you're not going to do that. You know what I mean?
It's not wise.
If you were counting on, if you needed a few more points and all you needed was, Christian McCaffrey to do his thing, I was laughing. I'm like, how many fantasy matches did this just screw? That's just, it's just funny. It didn't hurt me at all. It didn't help me at all. It didn't hurt me at all in any of mine, but I just thought it was hilarious.
I'm telling you, man, I've been bit by the CMC bug too many times. After he has a big year, the next year tends to be, something like this where he's going to miss 4 or 5 games and all that. It's just a gamble with that guy every single year. I feel like this year felt like one of those years after such a big year last year. Felt like a year he's going to miss some time.
Yeah. AK says, where are all the Purdy haters? All the Avengers weren't there against a good defense, and if Ayuk could catch, Purdy's line would have been elite. Yeah, I mean, he didn't throw for a touchdown pass, and he didn't go over his completion numbers. I was sitting there, and I told you I put a parlay together, and the second I heard CMC was out, I knew that my parlay was dead. And my parlay didn't have
CMC in it.
CMC in it. I just knew because it was all indirectly correlated to CMC being part of the offense. I had Debo under rush yards the second I heard that, CMC's out. I go, oh, Debo's getting the ball more. That was stupid. I had Kittle under catches. I'm like, well,
after the CMC news broke and you had you'd sent me because I put the Debo under, it wound up being 12.5 rush yards when I got it in. But as soon as I saw CMC was out, I went ahead and little red demon.
Yeah,
Debo's rush yards too.
I was like, yeah, he's gonna get his carries. Well, then the other thing was Purdy completions. He almost got there. He was 19 of 29, but it was over 20.5. And I'm like, oh, that's gonna be in question now, especially since we were like in the third quarter or in the second quarter, and he only had 2 completions. But I mean, 8 of those completions he was going to have last night was going to be dinking and dunking to CMC. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's what I'm saying. He would have racked up at least 6 or 8 more completions with just CMC coming out of the backfield.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, well, this one's dead. That sucks. But I'm not kidding when I put this up there. I'm curious what AK thinks. I think the Niners should just don't rush McCaffery back. You clearly don't need him at this point. Mason seems to be a viable backup. Your line seems to be doing well. Seems he might even be overrated, Cricket. Some are thinking it. He might be overrated. You could just plug anyone back there.
No, you better pump the brakes on that. I don't know about overrated, but we know availability is the best ability there. And it
But
looks like
I'm not kidding, dude. Sit this guy. Sit him. Give him some time. And they're already talking about not playing him next week. And the reason why they're not going to play him next week, this is very smart, which I would expect nothing less from the Niners organization, is because, Minnesota plays on turf. How many times have you seen people with these calf injuries come in, right? And then you go to turf, and that's where you worry about popping that Achilles.
isn't that where Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles last year up there in Minnesota?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, I think he's not playing this weekend. They had already said last night he probably wasn't going to. And I'll be honest, I know that the Vikings got him last year when they choked and all that, but I think the 49ers should be able to handle business in that game without CMC there. But yeah, don't rush that man back, man. You obviously got a guy that in Jordan Mason that's a capable backup there. So I just roll with that for a little bit, make sure CMC was 100%.
Absolutely. Also,
I agree.
AK, NFL sus for letting this slide. For letting what slide?
Man, they knew that man. Like I said, Jordan Mason knew on Friday night that he was going to be the starting running back.
They don't have to announce it until they have to announce it.
They don't have to until 90 minutes before the game?
Yeah. Why would you give your opponent any advantage?
No, I mean, that's fair too. I'm just saying, from a sports betting perspective, there was a lot of bets that were put in between Sunday and all throughout the day yesterday that had a lot of CMC stuff in there. You just could have saved a lot of headache if you'd have went ahead and been like, hey, man.
Yeah, but they don't owe that to anyone.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. They don't. They got a rule 90 minutes before the game, and they announced it 90 minutes before. Because if you don't do that, you will get punished, right? A la like the Bijan stuff last year.
Yeah.
Where they just suited him up and stood him over there on the sidelines as a decoy, just to stare at.
Yeah. What else was I going to say to you, Cricket, about this? No, I think you just let that calf heal, dude. The Niners are going to be fine. AK and I were talking about this last night. I feel like Ayuk should have to, as punishment for dropping that ball in the end zone, him and Purdy have to swap game checks. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Right?
That's a good deal.
You can't hold out and then finally get paid all this money and come in and drop something like that. I mean, that was a beautiful ball.
That's what they should do. If you hold out and you get a contract and they wind up signing you fat on games like you play last night, when you play like Brandon Ayuk did, you have to give your game check and spread it out amongst the players on the team.
Yeah, give a little bit to the lineman,
Purdy should get at least 25% of that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that was great. Another thing was we got to look at this, and I was getting nervous about it last night. But if you look at all the people that held out, they all went under. Jamar Chase under, CeeDee Lamb under, Brandon Ayuk under, Debo last year or a year or two ago when he held out, he went under. There's just so many examples of this, and we could probably even extend it to. Let's take a look at the guys that didn't play in the preseason, and look at them to go under. Like didn't practice that much. I'm actually I understand a lot of these guys don't play in the preseason. I understand that it's going to take a few games to get into game shape, but it seems like more than ever that this year we see guys just huff. I mean, you had Sauce Gardner out last night catching his breath. You had multiple people. You had Trent Williams that had to come out and get an oxygen mask and stuff like that. It's crazy. It seems way different. Like I don't remember seeing this many, like actually seeing it. Maybe it happens and they just didn't highlight it on the broadcast or anything like that. But I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, these guys obviously not practicing. And it takes a lot to get in game shape for an NFL game. I mean, these guys are all professionals. It's a long game, man. 60 minutes is a long time to play a football game there, especially with all the little things you have in between an NFL game. But, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of the testament to their conditioning. Not really, I guess, the opposite of a testament, man. It's not, They're not getting out there, getting themselves in the game shape, putting themselves through the rigorous workouts and all those things. They're sitting around and thinking you just go out there and pick up where you left off last year and all that stuff. And that's not the case, but these guys are all professionals. You got to practice up to be ready to go in this thing. And you do see a lot of times. I mean, you seen it the other night in that game with the Rams and the Lions. That defensive line was absolutely gassed in overtime, man. It couldn't do anything to stop David Montgomery. So, yeah, I mean, you'll see this first couple of weeks, these guys trying to get in game shape and all that. But it does feel like there's quite a few guys out there that should be, for the money they're making, you should be ready to go.
Oh, sorry. Got stuff in my eye. Yeah, they should. But, hey, maybe we just got to factor that in. I don't know how you handicap it, though, because it's both sides, right?
Yeah. I mean,
I guess if we see a game next week that goes to overtime, bet whoever gets the ball or gets the coin toss.
Yeah, that's fair. That's true, too, Patriot. He said it's also a rule that players can't gamble, but they still doing that.
No. They would never do that.
They wouldn't do that, would they?
No.
Jonte Porter.
Well, NFL Week 1 is in the books, so you know what that means.
I'm like, look, you gotta shut the fuck up. You that play's over.
Play is over. We're moving on to NFL Week 2, college football Week 3, all that good stuff. Okay, Cricket. Before we get Robert in here, we got to talk about a little highlight action, huh? Did you catch any of the highlight last night?
Last night, I did not get to see. I was running around like a madman. Monday's a pretty busy day for me. We had the show in the afternoon. I did a show with Elio last night, so I did not get a chance to sit down and watch any last night. I told you I watched quite a bit on Friday night, but tonight should be a much easier day for me, so I probably will be able to sit down and watch a little bit this evening.
Absolutely. Same with me. I mean, you got the Monday Night Football stuff and a bunch of things going on, but I was keeping an eye on it, checking in here and there. I was actually driving through the beginning of it, so I couldn't really get into it. But yes, Highlight. We teaming up with the World Highlight League. Go check out the World Highlight League. They're out of Miami, and we're focusing on Battle Court Highlight. A lot of fun stuff. Here, let's go ahead. I guess we'll start and recap the matches from yesterday. Let's see how they did. Douglas and Manning, my man. Cricket,
they hit it. They hit for us.
You
Let's
hit
go.
your bet. Let's go.
That's where some of that extra money came in the account. I didn't scroll down for it. I was just checking my football winners. I didn't even know we hit a little highlight.
We hit a little highlight action. Let's go, baby. So what we had, folks, is we bet Douglas and Manning to win 2-1. And look at that. Instead of trying to figure out, but I mean, they came out. Iterbite and Benny came out and just dominated the first match.
Yeah, man.
The first set, or however you're supposed to say set, 6-2. And then Douglas and Manning said, okay, hold up. And we were wondering about this because they played on Friday. So we're going to wonder, were they going to be a little bit rusty, or, how was this going to go? And shook that rust off real fast and went 6-3, 6-3. So good for them. Thank you for cashing that for us.
That's right. They had to
awesome.
come from behind, too, man. We'd been feeling rough about our pick after that first set there, but they come through flying colors in the last two sets. Shout out to Douglas and Manny, bro.
Ooh, look at this, too. Upset down here in match 3. Zuleika,
I believe.
Zuleika defeats Douglas. Douglas was almost minus 160 favorite?
Yeah, he was, man. Yeah.
Oh, man. Look at he must. Speaking of players getting gassed, he must have just got gassed in the third set there. 6-0.
My guy Douglas is a pretty good size old boy, man. He's a big old boy. Like I said, he's moving around out there on that highlight court.
Yeah, I mean, because he had to play. I thought him playing in the first matchup here would warm him up, get him going. Apparently, that was
might have gassed him out a little bit.
We're gonna have to rethink that one.
He's not in game shape yet, man.
He is not. But man, yeah, my 2-1 on Douglas there didn't cash. I thought it was gonna be 2. It was almost.
You almost got that thing, another come from behind victory there, but yeah, that's all right. They came through forcing that first doubles match.
Yeah, it was all plus money. That's what I like a lot about a lot of these highlight matches. It's all, you can find an angle to get plus money on it. So I mean, you can bet 2 different ways, and as long as one hits, you're there. But let's see what we got today. Today, Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I got the Fireballs and the Renegades going at it. Over on ESPN 3, FUBO, and YouTube. These guys, I kind of like this Fireball squad.
Love the Fireballs. I'm a huge Fireballs fan, bro.
Oh, we have our first forfeit. Yeah, that's right. We have a forfeit. So They already get the 1.5 for this in the standings. So we'll only have 5 matches tomorrow. Sometimes that happens. I think what the rule is that they give them, you got to give them 72 hours notice, right? If you are going to have a forfeit.
Yep, 72 hours. They usually know, and a lot of these forfeits are all determined well before the match takes off. This is actually today, isn't it? Will, I think you said tomorrow. It's today, right?
Yeah, today. This is today's match. Sorry if I misspoke. This is
Yep,
today's match. That's right, Buku. Buku's over here. Look at that. He's saying, we love Jai-Alai. That's right. We do love Jai-Alai. I'm getting into the sport. I'm liking it.
If y'all have not got to check this out yet, I'm telling you, get over there on ESPN Plus or ESPN3 and then the YouTube channel, all that stuff. Check this stuff out. I'm telling you, this is exciting stuff, man. These guys are back and forth. It's a great rally sport, much like tennis and things like that. But these guys are ultra talented when it comes to this game, man. It's pretty incredible to see them out there doing their thing.
And we're starting to figure out the betting of this thing. Look at we hit a plus money one yesterday. Came out positive on that
plus
one.
310, I believe.
Plus 310. Good clean living. Love
that.
Love it. That's way easier than trying to sweat out these Monday Night Football bets. You know what I mean? Like, God, that was a lot of work.
I had already double bet Christian McCaffery first touchdown last night, and they wound up getting them out. I was like, at least they gave me my money back. It wasn't an offshore book there.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I'm wondering though, because you know how you can replay. So this was the Division 1 matchups. It's doubles. So maybe they didn't have 2. But I'm like, did they not have 2? They got a Division 2 guy right here. Maybe they didn't have another Division 2 or Division 3 that they wanted to pair up. I wonder how that works.
So ask me again now.
So the forfeit is the Division 1 guys, and you can substitute a Division 2 in for Division 1. So I'm wondering like why they didn't do that. You know, what's the strategy behind that? Like, there must be some rules about matches. I guess this guy, the Division 2, is already playing in his 2 matches, so maybe that's why. And they just
probably has to do it. You'll see down there, like normally you're going to see in like Goshieri's match down there where it says Division 1 versus Division 2. Normally that's going to be Division 1 versus Division 1. Obviously, the top player for the we got Renegades and who today?
Fireballs. Your Fireballs.
Renegades and Fireballs. Renegades. Goshieri's on the Renegades. And so the other guy for the Fireballs must be out, their top player. So you have to, obviously, you can't go above your 1 rank. But let's just say that was the 2 player right there. You couldn't sub your 1 in for your 2 player. You would have to sub your 3. You have to take the lower ranked player if you have a forfeit like that, and you have to sub somebody in. So that's what I can figure. They just got their best guy hurt for the Fireballs.
Yeah. I'm wondering, we're gonna have to look and see what the odds are on that one too. But here's the updated standings. Warriors, obviously they've played this week and other teams haven't, so they have an advantage. But right now they're up top. Mm-hmm. Chargers right behind. Oh yeah, I actually go back. I forgot to even look at this real quick. Oh, it was a tie. 4-4. 4-4 split. Okay, that makes sense. So that's the match results, 4-4. I guess I'm so into our bets and the actual players.
Oh, no, I know what you mean, man. We didn't even check the final scoreboard. Can you bet I saw where they're getting it set up to where you can pick a side on this thing?
They're that should be coming up, if not now, very, very soon.
I was going to say, I don't see it quite yet, but I know they are working on getting that to where you can pick the side. I think I'm going to start when that becomes available. I think I'm just going to bet the tie in a lot of these, man.
Ooh, that is a good angle. Now you don't do it on games like this one where there's a forfeit already because you're at a
Well, I mean, you can still tie. There's still only
you could, but you're at a disadvantage. Usually the odds won't reflect like the value. Like you should get better odds on that. Like if it's let's say the tie is plus 500, typically you should get like plus 800 because there's already an advantage.
Yeah. Well, I guess it probably depends if that forfeit goes in favor of the favorite or the underdog too.
Yeah, either way, there should be if it goes.
Odds should be adjusted.
Yeah. You should get the Cowboys kicker. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, we got the Warriors, Chargers up top. Fireballs who are playing today. I have a feeling the Fireballs are going to retake the standings lead after today. You know what I mean?
They should. They should, man.
Even with giving up a 1.5 and forfeit, they should get a couple.
Then again, though, I mean, you're in a tough spot having to play without your Division 1 guy today.
That's true. That's true.
We'll see.
They should put odds on like you're saying with the tie, but like a sweep.
Yeah.
Like will one team?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, one team win 8-0.
Will one team sweep, get the 8-0? Win all 6 matches.
A lot of different odds you could do here. They should have the final scores available where you could pick like the correct score of the match, like this.
6-2 or something like that.
Yeah. 5.5 to 2.5 or whatever.
Yeah.
And
There's a lot of stuff that they can do.
yeah.
But you can, people go over to DraftKings, you go to the sportsbooks, you scroll down here, you go to Highlight, you click the World Highlight League, and here we are. This is where we get our odds that we were talking about. And here's match results. We've got our first match, Jada and Ikeda, plus 175 dogs here, huh? Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be I'm not seeing a whole lot of value in some of these today without taking a big dog. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That guy's really, really good.
He's good, and he's facing a 2, not even another 1. So
yeah, so I mean,
-6.
we got to look at this. I bet you got to lay -200 on the sweep.
Yeah, let's take a look at the sweep. So you can bet set winner and correct score on here. So let's go down that one. 2-0 sweep is -380. I feel like that's still like just bet it. You just bet it. Just get a little free money back.
If you do bet the 2-0, go ahead and bet the 2-1 too, just in case at +500. Just in case, man. I don't know. We see some crazy, and like I said, we still are in the infancy of this new season. Here we are still learning our highlights. So I can't even say that name that he's facing. You give it a shot. You see it?
Yeah, I do. I'm looking at Jorge Tizia.
Homemade Texas.
Homemade Texas. Homemade Texas. Homemade Texas. That's his nickname.
Yeah. That's right. So I'm just saying, maybe my guy can steal a game right there. I don't think you're beating Gaucheri in two out of three sets by any means there, but maybe just a little sprinkle on 2-1 for Gaucheri at +500 in case Hormo Texas can still a game.
They should man, they could get really creative when they start expanding these odds, because you could say, like, in the first set, or when you have a lopsided match like this, you could say, okay, how many total points will he get? Like over under 3.5 out of the whole match. You know what I mean?
Or you could do you could also do like time. Some of these rally points, man. Some of these first ones, like especially early on in the match, they go for a minute on these rally points. You could set an over under for like how long the first rally point of the match is going to go or whatever.
It'd be fun. That'd be great for
because the other day I was watching, man, and they went back and forth for I felt like 3 minutes before anybody actually scored a point.
Really?
Yeah, dude, it was back and forth. I'm telling you, these guys are good, bro.
We gotta be in shape.
Gotta be. That's what I'm saying. No wonder our man Douglas.
These NFL players gonna be able to do this, man. We all see them. They're out of shape.
And I tell you, you have to put so much effort into slinging that ball every time. I mean, you got to put your whole body into really whipping that thing up through there as hard as they throw it and all that. So yeah, man, it's definitely a very taxing sport.
Well, that's my best bet of the day. I'm gonna lay it. I'm just gonna lay the 3 units or almost 4 units to win 1. All right, I'm just gonna do it. We're gonna get a free unit 2-0. Go share.
My best bet of the day is going to be Gonaga and Flores to win 2-0 at -120.
I like that -120. Let's go. I like that.
Yeah, that's mine right there. I probably will go ahead. I might bet those 2-0s like that, especially if I got to lay a little money. I'm going to take a chance on the 2-1 at +330 there too. Maybe a half unit on the 2-1 for
maybe the Fireballs won't get many points today. I'm just thinking about it because you got they're favored to win that one. The Renegades are favored to win that one, and then you've got obviously they're not going to win the single match. Highly unlikely, I should say.
Highly unlikely. That's why they play the game. But at the same time, they are heavy dogs in this thing today.
But either way, it's still entertaining and fun to watch, especially a sport that you're not familiar with. So you start learning all these things and the broadcasting. So go over to ESPN3, FUBO, or YouTube TV. Go check them out today, 5 p.m. Eastern. That is our highlight coverage.
Booyah.
Booyah. Hey, I'm going to step away right before Robert gets here. I'll be right back.
You're good, man. You're good. Let's hang out with the chat for a minute. Buku said, we love highlight. That's right. Pissant. One of the bets I had, but had crushing defeat in fantasy. I needed 3 points out of Jets kicker. He got 1. That is brutal, sir. Greg the Leg let you down. Patriots said, you should have got the Cowboys kicker. Yeah, it's not wrong. Or hell, you're right, Pissant. Even the 49ers kicker, Jake Moody, when he came through, there were a bunch of kickers that put up big numbers this week, man. Middle of the road would have been like 10 points, I feel like. There were several guys that went put up quite a few fantasy points. And Patriot says, good teams have good kickers. That's a fact, sir. And Piss ain't going to get rid of his ass this week. Yeah, Greg the Leg is kind of I believe his better days are definitely behind him. I was a big fan of Greg the Leg some years ago. He won a few fantasy leagues for me, probably 3 or 4 years ago when he was still in his prime. But he has definitely fallen off quite a bit. And hell, he didn't have a whole lot of opportunities last night. And then you got a situation where the Jets get down in that game by so many, pretty quick there. And then you can't exactly take the field goals. At that point in time, you're having to go for it on 4th down and try to get yourself back in the game by scoring touchdowns and all that. So anytime you got your kicker in fantasy and then his team winds up going down pretty bad early, that's a bad prospect for you there because he's not going to get a lot of opportunities to get those points for you there. So Greg the Leg is definitely, he's solid, but he's by no means top 10 kicker in the league anymore. There's definitely a lot of guys that I would prefer to have over him. I tell you what, them NFL kickers are so good though, man. They amaze me when the ease they kick 50-plus yard field goals with. I don't know. That's what I want. We need a bet for the over-under on how many 50-plus yard field goals you're going to have in a weekend. I would take the over on every single one of those because those NFL kickers are absolutely incredible there. But we're going to get Robert in here in the next few minutes. He said he'd be here around 8, maybe a little bit after that. So we're going to go over some of the top games that we like this week. I think he's got 5 NFL games he wants to look at, and he's got 5 college games that he also wants to go over. So we're going to preview those for you, and we'll talk any questions y'all might have for him. Make sure and throw them in the chat, and we'll do our best to get those to him so he can answer them for you. You can come check us out over at sportspicks.locals.com. We have a promo going on right now through the end of September. You can use the promo code 2024, and you can get half off your monthly subscription through the end of September. You come over there and check out. You get the official picks from the great Robert Barnes. We got a community. You can interact, post your own picks, videos, and things like that. We have the live chat that is open year-round where you guys can all get in there and interact with each other, put your own bets in there and tell each other's or whatever. Just have a little conversation about it. And then on Fridays, you got the Q&A with Robert where he'll hop in there and answer any of your questions you have in the chat and all that stuff. So you can also go over there on sportspicks.locals.com. You can message him personally. It might take him a day or two to get back to you. He's a busy man, so just kind of bear with him on that. But you can't ask anything pertaining to legal advice. It has to be all pertaining to sports betting or political betting or anything like that. But you go sign up over there at sportspicks.locals.com. You have the access to message him personally, and he will get back to you. So come check us out over there. Use that promo code 2024, and get half off your monthly subscription through the end of September.
Absolutely. And check this out. We got our merch store. It's linked below. Let me show the fine people real quick. Look at that.
I like that, bro. That's sweet.
Look at that.
I might get on there and give me one of those, man. I like
now,
that.
listen, folks, I am going to change some things. So it's probably the only time that you're going to hear someone say, hey, don't go buy something on the merch store yet. I think, unless you like this design, I'm going to crop out. I'm going to also make an option where we're going to crop out these down here. It's just going to be the game on. So we'll make the game on bigger. All right. And that's for all the things, for the shirts and stuff like that. I think I'm going to change it just because it looks good on the screen right here, but there is fine. It's a little fuzzy on the gameon.locals.com at the bottom. So I think we're just going to make it clean, make it just the game on itself.
I like that.
But you can come check this stuff out over the store. Did you see this, Cricket? Did you see this?
I like that, man.
Yeah, I got to make some more designs, but I will edit some of these up there. But we got the option, the Cricket repeal the 19th poster. Look at that. This is over at Fourth Wall. I'm excited to check out these beanies. I got those coming through, but that's the hat. I got the hat. And I got a mug coming. I'm going to get the fanny pack here one of these days, too.
I think those fanny packs are sweet, bro. And I'm not a fanny pack fan.
Yeah, I also got, not that shirt. I got this shirt right here, but I got it in green, I think.
Okay.
My wife likes green, so I want to look good walking around the house.
That's right. That's right. Showing off that dad bod.
Think we can make baby number 6. Wait, what?
Wait, what? Pump the brakes on that.
I like this too, man. I'm going to get that next, actually.
Yeah.
It's fall, we need a little zip up.
I like a good little zipper hoodie now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, you can go over there, go check it out. That's it's linked in the description. Actually, I'm just gonna why don't we just post it right now? If you guys want to get you a hat or something, get you a mug, a little Sports Morning Espresso Shot mug. There you go. There you go. Okay. Check this out, Cricket. Still on top. Play the Niners last night. 72% Cricket. 72% winners in this contest. I'm not even scared. I should be scared of Lisa Utes, but I'm not, because I honestly
think I feel like she puts too many picks in, man.
That's what I'm saying. I don't get scared of the volume bettors. Maybe in any given weekend, yes. But over the long haul of the season, if you're going to be making that many bets, I'm not saying you can't be profitable. You can be where she's at, 58%, but 58%, if I can maintain my, I'm not saying I'm going to stay at 72, but if I don't drop out of 60, I could just coast. You know what I mean?
Maintain 72, you'd probably be considered one of the greatest handicappers of all time.
Well, I am. So
that's true. I forgot who I was talking to. My bad.
But I mean, look at after her. I mean, I'm doubled up on the next person almost.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. That looks
We're
good.
going to win this thing.
Yeah, you're in good shape there, man.
Long season.
It's a long season, sir. It's a long season. Well, let's see if we can, now that we have somebody down there in the back, let's go ahead and see if we can dive into some of these and find some winners. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Robert.
How goes it?
Good. Ooh, monster to start the day off. I like it.
That's right. He's ready to go. It's early out there where y'all at, man. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to go. Well, how'd you fare in week one of the NFL season there, Uncle Bob? It was a lot of crazy action. Some things we expected, some things we didn't. But how'd it go for you?
Yeah, it was interesting. I had the Jets last night over 19.5, and they decided to go for 2 after putting Tyrod Taylor in and not getting it, of course. So I was like but yeah, I thought it was almost everything as expected for the most part. I would say the most unexpected performance was, for me at least, was Sam Darnold playing very, very well on the road. I mean, he was briefly in San Francisco, but and obviously the Vikings coaching staff has done magic with a lot of quarterbacks. I mean, Josh Dobbs looked good for a game or two last year, so we'll see if they're able to continue that into this week. But
I think Shanahan should get an award. I mean, how many players has he gotten paid for turning them around? They come out there even just as a backup, and then
I mean, Sam Darnold started like 12 for 12 or something in that game the other day. He was on fire.
Yes, he was. But otherwise, I thought, I mean, Williams, I think, is going to stink. I don't think he's ever going to be good. I did not understand all the. I mean, they were treating him like he was second coming of Peyton Manning. And I was like, I mean, did everybody just skip last year's game against Notre Dame? I mean,
still mad that they didn't even cover after being up 17-0. Still mad.
First time. Only 2 other teams had ever done that in the prior 68 games where they'd been up by 17 points as a 4-point dog in a game. So the Titans made a little history. But Will Levis sucks. Will Levis sucks. Yeah. He's always going to suck. People are like, oh, he's going to be good. His offense is going to work. The other Bengals. Why?
They didn't allow an offensive touchdown.
Yeah, I mean so he's not good. But Williams not. I mean, I think Bo Nix can be good, but going on the road to Seattle first game wasn't going to show it. Jane Daniels, okay. Maybe some of these guys did okay in fantasy because they run a good bit. But the Anthony Richardson, who he reminds me of? He's the second coming of Vince Young and Colin Kaepernick. I mean, can't hit the right side of a barn. Great athlete. Right coach maybe can show some stuff here or there. But with any other coach, he'd probably be out of the league in 3 years.
Right.
And he can trick you because he has that powerful arm. And he had that bomb of a touchdown. I mean, it's going to look great. And you're like, yeah, this is our guy. But then it's like you need him to throw a 10-yard out route with a guy wide open for a touchdown, and he misses him.
Yeah, and repeatedly. And he'll throw into 5 guys defensively, not seeing the field at all. So the that will be interesting. Without Jordan Love for the Packers. Any word on whether they're going to get? I hope they get Tannehill.
Oh, they're talking about.
I should say I've heard they've been the rumblings about that because I think they know that Malik Willis is not going to be the answer there, and you got to look at you're losing Jordan Love. I think they're not going to put him on IR, but you're still going to lose him for 3 or 4 weeks. He can be gone for a month there, and you can be in real bad shape if you're the Packers if you have to have that guy gone for a month because you already lost the first game, so you're already behind the 8 ball there.
Yeah,
so I think Tannehill would be much more suited for that.
Tannehill would be a great fit, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Got a lot of weapons in that offense.
Yeah. I was shocked by, and I'll ask you about this, Robert. The Falcons offense not putting up as many points. I mean, it
was a little bit of bad luck though. They get to midfield. I think 5 times, 6 times they get to across midfield. So, they get the interception, they get the fumble, they get, different every little thing that could go wrong kind of goes wrong for them. When they cross, and it was a classic Steelers game. What's interesting to me is how many people love the Steelers, and the exact same people are down on the Pats. And it's like, they're the same team.
Same team. Yeah.
Defensively organized, disciplined team. want to have physical offensive line, want to run the ball. I mean, the only difference between those teams is with the Steelers, you got George Pickens, and with the Pats, you have a better quarterback, in my opinion. I mean, with either Brissett, who's always been a good backup, or with May, who at least has some prospects. Whereas, with Fields and Wilson, you're not going to get much. The Steelers are better off with Fields because he can at least run the ball. Wilson can't, so they should just leave Wilson on the bench. Well, Will Wilson is toast. He's been toast for years now, ever since he left Seattle. There's nothing left in the tank with that guy. But what's amazing is they're still betting, the Steelers to maybe win 9 games and the Pats to win 4. I mean, it's interesting. You see some of these handicappers, and they'll say some of the dumbest things online. Like they'll be
Welcome
like,
to
"Oh,
dinner."
probably a lot of people are going to be." What is it? It's like classic motivated reasoning. They'll sit there and say stuff like, "They want to bet against the Pats," so they'll say stuff like, "I think a lot of people are going to be betting the New England Patriots because nobody's betting the New England Patriots. Nobody bet them week 1. More than 1 out of 3 survivor pools. People have spent $100, $1,000, $5,000 out here in Vegas, $10,000." 1 out of 3 dead after week 1. Week 1 because they went all in on the Bungles. You never go all in on the Bungles.
No. That's a good segue. I wanted to ask you this question before we hop into these games is talk about how important it is because people who are casual bettors, how important it is to not overreact in any given week when it comes to the NFL, especially week 1. Teams aren't as good as they look. Teams aren't as bad as they look. You can't my power ratings. It's rare outside of obviously with the Packers, you got to make a bigger adjustment because Love is out, right? But any other team, I think it's rare. It's about a half point to a point adjustment. It's rare sometimes if it's really bad, then it's 2 points max is what I do in my power rankings. But you just can't overreact. You almost got to forget what you saw last week when you're trying to look at the next week's lines.
Yeah, I mean, probably what's distinct about how I do power ratings is they rarely change all year. So for me, my power ratings almost never change. I think there's too much week-to-week adjustment, too much. These are small sample sizes by definition. Even 17 games is really a small sample size. So that's a whole season. The only thing I'm looking at is whether I might be right or wrong on a quarterback. And if quarterback pretty much drive my ratings. I don't make big adjustments for defenses. I was kicking myself a little bit for not taking the over on the Monday night game because I originally had the over. I thought the total should be 51, which is exactly where it finished, 51.
Right.
But all these sharp bettors were obsessed with the under, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll lay off it. And it's if you look at it over the past 15 years, good defenses don't stop good offenses. They just don't. The defense only matters against crap offenses. If you got a mediocre like last year, everybody made a big deal. Why are the Browns splits so big? The Browns splits were last year at home. They played only 3 good quarterbacks, and 2 of the 3 put up 23 points or more against them. Right, which is pretty much the norm for a good quarterback on the road in the modern NFL. And guess what? Dak does. He puts up more than 23 points against them. So it's crap quarterbacks that good defenses shine against.
Yeah.
But I'm just not a believer that I see all these analysis that go these deep dives into so and so is playing the nickel and so is playing. Yeah, I'm sorry. The other thing is every year they'll make a huge deal about offensive lines, and I'm like, I've seen that so many years, and what they predict or project about an offensive line often doesn't matter or hold. I mean, when is the last time the Chiefs had a left tackle? And they've won several Super Bowls without it. You can't play in the NFL, modern NFL, without a left tackle. It's got to be in the lead left. They have crap left tackles. Now, granted, they let them hold every single Super Bowl. But putting that aside, it's just this is a quarterback-driven league. Coaches can help those quarterbacks excel or not excel with the analytics revolution in the last decade or so. But otherwise, a lot of it's overrated, in my opinion, in terms of people put all this micro investment into little differences on receiver and tight end and defense, et cetera. And not to say that can't help on the margins, but it's like a half a point. I mean, most sports bookies will admit that a star player, other than a quarterback being out, is maybe half a point, maybe a point to the line. And that should tell you, okay, how impactful then can wide receiver number 2 be? So
we saw last night, Christian McCaffery went out and the line kind of came down a little bit, but it didn't go below 3 or anything like that. And if it touched 3, I saw 3 minus 120. So it's still, then a bunch of money came in on the Niners. And I was like, oh, there's some people that know the Niners are going to win this one tonight.
And it doesn't move through that key number of 3. You know, something's funny.
Now there are, I think with that, you got to also look at betting like trends. So like a unit, like an offensive line unit, there's some good stats now over the last like few years of if you're replacing to start the season 3 or more linemen, then those teams usually do pretty poor to start the season off. Like Baltimore fit that. Yeah, Baltimore fit that. Yeah, go ahead.
Also, your new defensive coordinators against the top 10 offense will give up a lot of points in week 1. The things that make sense, that
new everything, I call it the new everything rule. So like Washington, new head coach, new quarterback, rookie quarterback, new defensive coordinator, offensive. The only team that outperformed that stat was the Patriots this weekend. Everyone else, if you followed that rule, you did pretty good. Of just and new green dot players and all that. Yeah.
How new were the Patriots really?
Yeah.
I mean, Mayo's been on that staff for a long time. Tennessee boy, Jared.
Yeah, go Balls.
Yeah, only thing I'm gonna say about my Patriots, I was excited that Christian Gonzalez came back and looked like the stud he was last year. I didn't know him coming off that knee injury, but that guy locked down. He goes, "You ain't getting a new contract on me." No,
that's right.
No way.
And some things that are same old. Joe Burrow never starts out well. It doesn't matter. And even now he had preseason and the rest didn't matter.
I thought that might be different. I'm like, we had never seen him go through the whole preseason healthy.
And I think it's maybe. I think it's a factor now, man. At this point.
Yeah, he's just one of these guys that just needs to get game time, real game time. He's just one of those quarterbacks. I mean, there's some guys that need time to get rhythm. He clearly needs time to get rhythm, to get into the flow of the game. Now he's going to have a big wake-up call this week, traveling to Kansas City, but that may be exactly what the doctor ordered because historically he shines.
Yeah, he's kind of had Mahomes' number. Cricket, this is going to be a topic maybe for tomorrow, but let's dive into. I know this is never going to happen, but I think that the Bengals should just trade Burrow and get a haul for him. Go put him on a good team. They're not going to win anything with them, but we'll talk about that. This would be a fun little sports talk when we don't have anything to talk about. Never going to happen, but it would be smart.
That would be heresy. That would be a heresy times 10. But I mean, not with how many times the Bengals are so cheap that they've blown chances. That the especially him being a hometown boy. That those fans would probably never forget.
Imagine they shipped him to Cleveland and brought him to Watson.
Yeah, don't let him do that, man. Good morning, Loki, and good morning, Tommy Robinson. Good to see y'all in.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing? Smash the like button while you're here. Let's get into these games. Actually, hold on. I want to talk one college football game with you guys because I don't know how many college football games I'm going to get to. It's Apple Cup week, which is weird. In September,
early in the year, Oregon State this week too.
Yes, Civil War. It's gonna be a fun weekend in college sports. But I want to get your guys' opinion on this game because you guys know me. I despise my Cougs because they always let me down. And this week is a lose option for me. We either win and then I get super excited because we finally beat the Huskies. We're 3-0, and then I guarantee you next week they'll go out and lose to. I don't even know who we're playing next week. They'll lose, or we lose, and I gotta hear all my buddies just texting me, giving me a hard time that we lost again to these Huskies. So it's lose option for me. But 4.5 points seems like a lot to give the Cougs in this one. I know it's on the road, but I kind of like the over in this game if I'm going to bet anything. But what's your opinion on this game, Robert?
So I was on Washington State and the under Texas Tech this past week because it climbed too high. It got to like 66 or so. You got Fish. The former Arizona coach, he has torched this defense, Washington State defense, in the past when he was at Arizona. So that I think would be
they had a little bit better weapons down there than they got in Washington right now. But
that's an interesting question. How much does he? Because I mean, those receivers are playing solid, but I think Arizona might be in trouble without him this year. We'll see. I think that's if Washington State schematically, like the problem with Leach was Washington's defense for a long time. They had his number. They knew exactly how to play that spread offense. And that was, I used to bet Washington all the time in that game because Leach's offense couldn't move the ball because Washington tackled so well on the perimeter and how they schematically matched up. So
I had a chance to hedge out of the Gardner Minshew year where the winner went to the Pac-12 championship. I had an 80-1 ticket on my Cougs to win the Pac-12 that year. and I had a chance to hedge out, and I couldn't pull the trigger on putting money on the Huskies.
You didn't want to bet the Huskies.
Who would have thought in Pullman the snow would have hurt us and not them? But that's exactly what happened. It started snowing, and I go, oh boy, that spread offense, quick pace is not going to work well in this snow, and it didn't.
I think talent-wise, doesn't Washington have an edge like from 24/7 composite talent ratings? I wonder how big of an edge is it? I don't know.
It's not an overwhelmingly big edge, but there's a slight talent disparity there due to the portal that was, Washington State was hit pretty hard.
Yeah, we lost a lot of people, and we didn't have much to begin with, and that's why I don't know how good this team actually is. It's tough to say.
Washington was able to save some of those recruits from the portal because they did hire him pretty quick after Kalen DeBoer moved on to Alabama there. A lot of times that's what gets you in trouble is you have that big gap in between coaches there and a lot of your recruits wind up looking elsewhere. But they did get him hired pretty quick, so they were able to save some of those guys from that portal.
I mean, you got Washington with 22 four-star players and Washington State with 3.
Yeah. That's not a small disparity. That's a very big disparity.
Sounds like
I'd say, honestly, Washington State should be double-digit underdogs. I'd probably lean Huskies in this game. Sorry.
That's not what you wanted to hear, man. But I think the more Uncle Bob talks right there, the more I'm thinking Huskies in this one.
I'm just gonna bet the over and hope we all get points.
There you go.
At least if we lose, I hope we get blown out. So
I
we hit
haven't
the over.
watched them play. Isn't the quarterback like some heavy running kind of quarterback this year for the Cougars?
That offense always has seemed to kind of have that element to it there,
Yeah. We I don't know, but we haven't really played anyone yet.
Texas Tech is a decent team.
They are, but I think they're underperforming heavily on their preseason expectation. I think a lot of people expect that Texas Tech team kind of struggled in week 1 there, beating Abilene Christian 52-51 in OT. And then you come back last week and go out on the road to a Washington State team that, doesn't even have a conference.
I will say it is weird coming out to the Palouse. Like a lot of those teams, like I saw when Bronny James USC came out. Yeah, I just could imagine what that was like when they landed. Like, where the hell are we? Middle? There's just nothing but fields.
and it was a Texas Tech team that brought back several guys and, was expecting to build off what they did last year. That's a team that really gave Oregon all they wanted down in Texas Tech last season there. And so they did bring some of those guys back, but they're definitely heavily underperforming expectations early on.
Real quick, I want to share, Robert, I don't think I've told you this. I have a Mike Leach story from when I have multiple Mike Leach stories when he was there because I was on campus when he originally arrived. He arrived my sophomore year. That year, his first year, we didn't win a single game until the Apple Cup. And that was great. The only game that we won was the Apple Cup. So I didn't usually go back home for Thanksgiving because there would be 1 week left of finals and then go back for like a 5-week Christmas break. So I would just stay, and then there would always be Apple Cup, and I'd always want to watch that, and if it was in Pullman. And so I went to the game, and when we were down double digits, we came storming back, won that game somehow. Leach got a $25,000 bonus for winning the Apple Cup. He came into the bar right down the road from the stadium where everyone went after the game, bought everyone a beer and a shot. It was
love Mike Leach. Love that guy. Rest in peace to the Pirate, man.
Yeah, rest in peace. So I was a big Mike Leach fan after that. And I was like, he gets us. He
does. He understands. Man of the people.
But okay, that's what I want to know. My Cougars going to lose this weekend. Great. Let's go over here. Let's go to hey, probably the only time this is going to happen all year, but Cougs and Patriots won in the same weekend. It was a good weekend for me.
Yeah. Oh man, I bet you don't get that again this year.
I know. I set some odds on that. But we got Thursday night football, Bills, Dolphins. One thing I took away from the Bills this weekend was they're exactly who I thought they were. They are so Josh Allen dependent, and this man, I'm not saying he's not going to be great. He was great out there. But he can't do that. He can't be Superman every single game. But look, he banged up his hand already, his non-throwing hand. But he's not going to survive a full season doing that. And if he goes down, that team is in big trouble. And they also don't have much depth. So if any of the other players get banged up, that's not going to be great for the Bills. I've been low on the Bills this year, and it looks like that's going to probably pan out unless somehow a miracle happens for this team or that defense starts figuring it out. I think they're definitely missing Poyer. He went down to Miami, but he was kind of the heart and soul of that secondary for a long time. And I don't know. I wasn't too impressed with the Bills. It was an impressive comeback, but I mean, that's just Arizona being Arizona. Dolphins. I like the Dolphins in this one. You got sharp action and big money on the Dolphins. I kind of like the Dolphins this one. I like that they didn't look so great to open up the week. Now you got a division rival coming in here. I lean at the moment towards Miami laying the 1.5. But Josh Allen could win this game single-handedly again. But we'll see. But what do you think, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have, Tua came out a little bit rusty out of the gate, and then they got a new defensive coordinator and a lot of pass rushers missing off the defense, though they did play much better in the second half against the Jags. Tyreek Hill gets arrested, before the game, and even does his little handcuff dance after, after he gets the touchdown. So
He's a trip.
they released the body camera footage, and the Dolphins team is all agitated about it. But Hill is still Hill. That offense can explode at any moment. It's going to be when it's Miami in September, you have to kind of favor Miami. I assume they'll get the offense running and clicking. The defense will be a work in progress all year. But that's the same story for the Bills. The difference,
and one thing that hurts them is they usually have an advantage early on in the year because of home games, the way their stadium set up. That sun beats down on the other sideline, but this is a night game, so they don't even get that little advantage in this one.
That's true. That probably is priced into the line. But I would have made the Dolphins -3 in this situation. So yeah, I'll pick the Dolphins to win and cover.
That's me, man. I think the Dolphins very well may be my favorite bet in the NFL this week. I loved seeing them come out, start kind of slow last weekend against the Jaguars there, but did show a lot of resiliency, be able to battle back in that thing. Defense didn't play terribly. They gave up the 17 pretty early on, but didn't allow a point the rest of the way there. And the Bills looked really, really bad in the early on against the Arizona team that's not expected to be upper echelon in the NFL or anything. I mean, a lot of teams, I think their win total is only sitting around 4.5, 5.5. in most spots for Arizona. So it's not a great team right there. And the Bills had to do, if it weren't for Josh Allen, that's what I think is going to wind up happening to this team, man. They don't have a lot of depth. They're going to wind up using Josh Allen way too much. And he's going to take a lot of those big hits. The guy does not know how to slide, and he will put his body out there on the line. But I think he's going to wind up getting banged up some. I don't know if it's going to be any injury keeps out for any amount of time, but it is going to be something that kind of takes his skill set down a level just because the physical ability of being able to do things there. And he's going to get banged up quite a bit. But I love the Dolphins at this spot, man. I'm with Robert. I think this should be about -3, maybe even -3.5 there with the books begging some people to take the Bills. But I think the Dolphins just come back, bounce back in a big way. Buffalo kind of shot their wad last week in that comeback. Now you got a short week having to travel on the road in a division game there. I love Miami. It's probably my favorite bet of the NFL this week is the Dolphins -1.5.
Yeah, and I mean, short week doesn't help Allen in that hand. I mean, I'm sure he's going to be fine and whatnot, but this would be a week you probably would love a couple extra days rest on that hand. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. This game, I'm excited for this because from a betting perspective, I love these. We got the Saints and the Cowboys. I love when, especially a very public team like the Cowboys goes out, looks very, very flashy, very fancy. Now they're coming home. And you got the Saints that no one wants to bet on. No one likes. The only thing that I don't like about this is the Saints also went out and put up a bunch of points. But I think that was a little bit of a not so much of Carolina being as bad as they are, but the Saints, after having a miserable season last year, they were just like, if we can, let's just pile on the point. Let's score when we can to make up for all the terrible, letdown year last year. So I don't know. This one, I'm probably going to be on the Saints in this one. It just because it's an ugly pick look at 92% of the money so far is on the Cowboys. So that makes me already want to go take the Saints, especially if I can get a 7. But I think I was not impressed. I shouldn't say I wasn't impressed. I think the Cowboys defense looked better than it actually is. I did not realize before the game. Had I known this, I probably would have taken the Cowboys last week. I did not know that the 2 tackles for the Browns were out. They had replacement tackles in there, and you saw it. Deshaun Watson was like, if he couldn't hit his first read, he was scrambling around and obviously didn't play well. So I think the Cowboys defense looked better than it actually is. And Dak played all right, but I'll probably take the Saints and the points in this one. What say you, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, you get 2 different trends competing with each other. I'm sure there were some sharp money syndicates on the Saints last week. There were a lot of sharp money people on the Panthers. And that was another game where it's like, why are you expecting Bryce Young to magically reverse all the problems he had in year 1? Yeah, okay, they got a few more personnel, and they got the quarterback whisperer, the guy who helped turn Baker Mayfield and Geno around. But it's still Bryce Young, and he's still 5'2".
You had all summer to drop the first play that you're going to run for the season. And what do? Throws an interception on the first play.
Yeah, golly. Had 3 months to prepare for this play.
I saw Bryce Young play a couple of years ago in Austin against Texas, And Mike, I came away, I was like, that guy's a career backup. He's not a career starter. Yeah, he's really sharp, but that's about all.
That was the game where they came back and kicked the game-winning field goal.
They had they scrambled to come back and win that one. It was a very close game.
He had a nice drive to end the game, I remember.
Yeah, that's the only thing that saved him. He bailed them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But basically that was a weak Texas team that had to play with a backup quarterback for 3/4 of the game, and they needed a little bit of a miracle to come back and win it. But you could see watching him play, he was very calm, so that his mindset was good. But there was nothing about him that was exceptional. He didn't throw with great anticipation. He was clearly very short, which is going to be an issue in the NFL. There's not many short quarterbacks that have survived in the NFL. Doug Flutie's the closest example to anybody that's his kind of height. Because you're not talking about you're not talking about Drew Brees. You're talking about 5'7", 5'8". I mean, he looks like a middle schooler when he shows up on campus. There's a lot of people that love to fade Derek Carr. There's a lot of people that love to fade the Dennis Allen, the head coach for the Saints, and there's a lot of people who love to bet the Cowboys at home because under McCarthy they've blown out tons of teams. So that's what I think, that this line will only go higher. I think by Sunday it's probably going to get up over 7. I mean, this is a game that could go over that key number because of how much excitement I think there will be towards Dallas, unless. At this point you have very, very early public action, so you don't usually know what that means unless people get so pumped about the Saints blowout win that they jump all over the Saints, and then it keeps it down to 7 or even under 7. But I would think this is a game you can probably get. If it hits 7, then I'd bet the Saints. Just because my view is I didn't see a lot. I mean, under the hood, Prescott wasn't really that impressive last week.
His numbers weren't great. No.
Yeah, they weren't. I mean, it's mostly that Deshaun Watson can't hit the right side of a barn. And the key factor with the Saints is I'm a huge Kubiak fan. What everybody calls the Shanahan coaching tree is, in my opinion, actually the Kubiak coaching tree. Kubiak is who designed that offense in Denver that Shanahan then borrowed, that his son then learned, and so on and so forth. And this is the kid Kubiak. And if he showed in week 1, because it was always talking, the Saints' offensive line is terrible. Derek Carr is always awful when he's under pressure. Both things that might appear true. Generally, he has schemed. Think about any Shanahan Kubiak coach team. Many of them had mediocre offensive lines on paper. It doesn't matter the way they scheme. Last night, I mean, the Jets supposed to have one of the best defensive lines in football. They went out there with an unknown backup. How many times have you seen that story from a Shanahan Kubiak team? And ran all over him? I mean, I think Purdy got touched twice all game. Purdy was sitting there, boom, 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 boom. So all of a sudden you see the same thing. Yeah, granted the Panthers, traded away one of their best pass rushers. And so maybe the Cowboys would be better with Micah Parsons at home. But I definitely wouldn't be laying points with the Cowboys because I'm not convinced the Cowboys are as good as they were last year. And I'm not convinced that the Saints are going to be as bad as they've been at times under Dennis Allen. So, yeah, I would lean with the Saints.
Real quick, Cricket. Robert, I know, from the picks you give out, usually don't have player props, but one that we have been watching that panned out again this year. If you look at these guys that hold out and don't play much preseason, they all go under. CeeDee Lamb, under his yards. Ayuk last night, under his yards. Who's the other? Jamar Chase, under his yard. Debo, when he held out a couple of years ago, under his yard. So it's just a little trend or something to keep an eye on. It makes sense, but it keeps happening. So I'm curious to see how that works out.
Last week.
Yeah. Well, I bet
that was a good pick. Yeah, that you're right. That is sharp.
Yeah. Cricket, what do you think about this game?
Man, I'm going to watch this one a little bit throughout the week. I feel like this could be the line. To me, I feel like should be above the key number of 7. I feel like it should be 7.5, maybe 8. I feel like it could be a little bit of an overaction for the Saints right here. They did blow the doors off of the Panthers when that thing 47-10 there. But we know the Panthers, after this week 1, it looks like the Panthers are by far the worst team in the NFL since the Patriots did what they did up in Cincinnati. But I think it could be an overreaction right here, man. I think I'm leaning Cowboys in this thing. I kind of like it below 6.5 right there. I do want to go ahead and lock that in on my contest picks for my bookie contest because I think it will wind up moving up north of 7 on that. So I want to snag that early line there. But the Cowboys look really good, man. I got a weird feeling about the Cowboys this year. It just feels like this is a team that's complete all the way around as long as they can avoid any catastrophic injuries. I know Jake Ferguson got banged up the other day. He's probably going to miss 3 or 4 weeks with that sprained MCL. That is huge, man, because they don't have any depth at tight end, really. And they already, but outside of Brandon Cooks and CD Lamb there, not a whole lot of guys you really want to throw that football to. I think they got to get Rico Dowdle more involved. I don't think Zeke is going to be able to be the answer as number 1 running back for the course of the season there. So I think Rico Dowdle's got to get a lot more involved in the offense because he is a guy that can catch the ball in the backfield, a pretty shifty guy that can take it to the house. So I like what I saw of the Cowboys offense. I like Dak a lot, and I think he's going to have another big year here. And the Cowboys defense is still the Cowboys defense. Can you imagine having to start 2 backup tackles against Micah Parsons? That would be absolutely terrifying right there if you were the Browns. So they were in a bad spot. I think the Cowboys right here, this line should be higher than 7, higher than touchdown for me because I don't think the Saints are a great team. I think they just blew out a really bad team.
Contest lines aren't open yet, but congratulations to all of us. Most of the entries, including yours, Roberts, we went 3-2. So
hey, we're still alive then, man. We're still alive.
Yeah, we're up there. It was a long season. It'd be nice to start 5-0, but
you just don't want to start 1-4, man.
Oh, like heavy steps. Sorry, heavy steps. This is for you, Cricket, real quick. What's up, Baby Seal? He says, hey, fantasy question, PPR league. Do I start Jay Myers, Jay McMillan, Rome? Isn't Rome injured right now? Khalil Boyd. I also have Lazard. I'll just say this real quick. Lazard, Rodgers tends to go to what he knows. I think he might be it for fantasy football or maybe even just betting. Do you bet over on Lazard stuff? Because clearly he had 2 touchdowns last night. One was from Rodgers. But Rodgers tends to go, especially when things aren't going his way, he tends to go back to his favorites or just he keys in on a certain guy. So maybe Lazard might be here early on. I don't know. Any of those stand out to you though?
I think if it's PPR, you're probably looking at a guy like Lazard because you talk about the familiarness with Aaron Rodgers there. But I like a guy like Khalil Shakir in a game against the Dolphins that's going to wind up, I feel like, being a pretty high scoring game right there. And you don't have a proven number 1 wide receiver on that Bills team, so I feel like Shakir is going to get the opportunity to be able to put you up some points.
Was that number 13? Was that number 13? The guy that for the Bills?
I don't know his number right off the top of my head, but he played with them last year. He got more involved in that offense. You saw Stephon Diggs kind of dwindle off in that thing. They realized he wasn't going to be their guy anymore. So you just don't have a proven receiver there. You saw a guy like Mac Hollins that played for the Falcons last year, and Gabe Davis is gone now. You got the tight ends and Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. And then the rookie Keon Coleman there. So you got some guys, but nobody looked like they were ready to separate themselves to be the number 1 wide receiver last week. So I think Khalil Shakir is definitely still in the talk for that team.
Okay. Next up, we got this is gonna be a fun one. Bucks and Lions. We saw the Lions that you saw the smirk when they won from Dan Campbell when they won the coin toss in overtime. He knew what was going to happen, and a lot of people are bashing the Rams defensive line. I'm like, they were gassed. They're like, oh, they missed Aaron Donald. I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe they miss him a little
Everyone
bit,
would miss Aaron Donald.
If he was out there, he would have been gassed just right along with everyone else. Like their whole defense was. And I want to ask you this real quick, Robert, before we get into this game. I know this happens every year. Like it takes a while for these guys to get, a couple games to get into game shape. But I feel like this season, more and more we're seeing, maybe they're just focusing on it in the broadcasting, but I feel like, you saw Sauce Gardner last night have to step out and take some breathers, Trent Williams. It seems like these guys are really not in shape all around the league. I don't know what it is. Did you notice any of that?
Too many banquet circuits.
Yeah, well, I think it's the question was always going to be what happens when the NFL decides to the coaches and the players don't play any preseason. And that's really a shift because people they used to play at least part of one game and then some of game 2 and then usually a good part of game 3 and then game 4 they would step down and they shortened it to 3 games and they decided basically to skip preseason and for the most part. And I think what you saw is you're seeing a lot more rustiness out there. Now, the other question is whether or not defenses have caught up with offenses because it was last year was a real down year in terms of point scoring and quarterback passing touchdowns. At least week 1 looked a lot like last year more than it looked like the 4 years prior. So it'll be interesting to see whether that downward trend of scoring points, is that because of how they're calling certain plays in terms of officials, or is that the lack of prep, actually real game time play in preseason football by the starters? or is it the defenses are catching up to the quarterbacks? It'll be interesting to watch, but I think it's something to see as we go forward.
Will over under will Fox replace Brady with Antonio Brown in the broadcast? That would be hilarious.
That would be classic.
I'm telling you guys, listen. Dude was nervous. Dude doesn't get a prep with all the other guys anyways. And also 28-3. Remember, it takes him a little while to cook sometimes. All right. Give him some time.
Tom Brady should pay you to be a hype man.
I was never super sold that he would be a good announcer.
Yeah.
I got Romo. Like I always thought Peyton Manning would be because his father was.
Yeah.
Manning was a natural, and Manning had a sense of humor. You can see it when he and Eli do their show together. He's just instinctive at knowing what's coming, how to predict it, etc. Brady always struck me as more of a competitor than somebody who's an analyst. And so maybe he'll get around to it, but I didn't understand the big
That's
contract for him.
exactly what I said, Robert. We came in here yesterday. I said, I think the biggest problem with Tom is I don't think he naturally can compliment other people. You know what I mean? I think I don't think he can.
Yeah.
Seriously, I think he looks at it and he's got to say, "Oh, that was a great play," but in his mind, he's like, "He should have hit this check down route over here or hot route." Like he's thinking about the game and how he would do it, and instead of
playing
like
the game in real time from the booth,
just criticizing, feel like, "Oh, that's stupid," because that's all he did his whole career was criticize him, criticize himself, criticize his other players, and I don't know. We'll see. But
I think Tom will be all right. He's had a way of figuring out everything else in his life to make it work, so I think Tom will wind up doing just fine there.
The other thing is I've just never been a big fan of players or coaches turned analysts. To me, that being a good coach or a good player doesn't tell me anything at all about your ability to analyze a game. And it's like I've never understood, you got to have, so it was like, Magic Johnson was one of the worst analysts ever. You get your rare talents, your color commentators like Shaq and Barkley. But there's an example. Shaq and Barkley were always funny during their career.
Yeah.
So when did you ever tune in to watch a Tom Brady press conference? Right?
Yeah.
You watched the Bill Belichick press conference.
Exactly.
I will say this though.
That's who they should have hired, by the way. They should have hired Belichick to be in the bench.
Yeah, I love
Belichick would give you tons of insights you would never guess.
Like Saban does. On the college.
Well, I was gonna say, the Pat Mac. I like pairing a guy so serious like Saban with Pat McAfee, who's just goofy. That combo it's been fun to watch.
It is good TV, man. It is good TV.
It is.
Going back to
we got the Bucks and the Lions here. Lions laying 7 at home. Sharp money, big money coming in on the Lions here. 73% of the money on the Lions, and the Bucks catching 7. This game is interesting to me because this was a rematch of the playoff game last year, where I believe
we got them back to back with the Lions. We got the Lions rematch, and we got the Bucks Lions rematch in the same venue.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, we had a 31-23 win for Detroit, and it's back up in Detroit. Mayfield, if I remember correct, I think the Lions were controlling this whole game, right? Like there was some garbage time scoring in this one. Right?
We had a shot. We had a shot late in the game there, but it was one of those games that never really felt like Detroit lost their grip on the game. They just kind of methodically handled business. Baker did throw the pick late where we had a chance to go down and win it there, but it never felt like the Bucks really had a chance late in that game.
Well, what do we think about this one, Robert?
Yeah, we had a big 5% play on the Lions last year in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Over at sportspicks.locals.com. We all put the odds in your favor. If you want to be a member, you can sign up in September and enter discount code 2024 and get half off monthly subscriptions. If you'd already been a subscriber, you would have made, you would have made enough to cover about 10 years of subscriptions in just the first month.
Can't beat that.
It's been cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. Been very profitable week after week so far. So let's see how it keeps going. But I think this line is too big. That was a miracle cover by the Lions last night. Once it went up to 4.5, and you get the overtime touchdown to do it, it was like but my under bet was pretty safe, even in OT. You don't get to see that very often,
right?
I think Lions are good, but it's like the Lions and the Texans. People are putting the Super Bowl, and I'm still not completely sold. The Rams, though beat up, were leaving that game very late. So in Detroit, Tampa Bay. Now the question I have is what is Tampa Bay? Washington has one of the worst secondaries in the league, so that might be a unique one-off performance, or is Baker Mayfield just cooking there in Tampa? That he's got the wide receiver core. Now, they still can't run the ball. They're not going to run the ball against the Lions. They couldn't run the ball last year. The question will be, how does Baker Mayfield do on the road in this situation? The Lions have been a covering machine under Dan Campbell, so not a lot of people want to step in front of that freight train. But if it's already up to 7, if you can get that 7.5, I'd stick with the dog again in this situation.
I liked what I saw from the Bucs last week. I agree with you that we don't know what we can see from them. But the reason why I like the Bucs last week against Washington, other than the change everything rule that went against Washington, was you saw the Bucs playing that game. They looked like a veteran team that played together, in which they are. They know each other. Pager looked calm. Even when he's getting sacked, he's still slinging the ball into like not bad passes. He's getting it out to his guys. He knows they're out in the flat. So they're familiar with each other. Now the Lions are too. They're very familiar, but I just don't know what I'm going to get from the Bucs week in and week out, because it seems like they always have a couple good games stretch, and then they go back to being the Bucs, and then they're just a roller coaster of a team. I will say this: Todd Bowles is terrible against the spread in his career, but where he is the best, he's something like 65% against the spread in weeks 1, 2, and 3. So this is a good time you want to bet on Bowles if you're going to bet on him.
Yeah, I'd just be very careful. This line to me looks awfully funny, man. I don't think it should be that high. I think it should be probably more along the lines of about Bucs plus 4.5. The Bucs looked very good last week, and you saw the Lions' struggles in Sunday Night Football. There were the Rams having to come back and win that thing. But I just don't feel like they should be giving the Buccaneers a touchdown right now. So it's almost like much like Tennessee and Texas last week in college football. It feels like the books are begging you to take the Buccaneers right here. And it just almost looks too good to be true for me, man. And especially if it even moves up anymore, if they move it out to 7.5 and they're not afraid of that touchdown, it almost feels like a spot for the Lions to me, just because the Bucs looked very good last week. Baker was out there doing the thing, didn't throw any picks, 4 touchdowns, no picks. And you saw him spreading the ball around. The defense looked solid. So everything should tell you that they should not be a touchdown dog right here. To me, it tells me that. Like I said, I think it should be more around 4 to 4.5. So I think the books are almost begging you to take the Buccaneers. So I would be careful with that.
Okay. Moving right along. Next one we got is, man, there's some interesting matchups this week. This wasn't on our list. I just briefly wanted to comment on this. I originally saw this line, the Commanders and the Giants, where it's at 2.5. And I thought, whoa, that seems off. And I'm like, I don't want to overreact to the Giants being terrible last week, but if I can get the Commanders at home under a field goal, I mean, Jaden Daniels, at least we can see he can do some stuff with his legs. Giants showed that they couldn't do anything, but I didn't want to overreact, so I haven't overreacted. Then I checked my power rankings, and I'm like, no, the line's where it's supposed to be according to my power rankings. So I don't know how I'm going to play that one yet, if I do play it. But do you have any instinct on this one, Robert?
I think it's a division rivalry that could be a good situation for the Giants to bounce back in. They really need to, or it's going to be a disastrous season, because that was a horrendous start. Dabo takes over the play calling, and it doesn't translate to. I mean, he gets badly outcoached by the Vikings head coach with Sam Darnold as his QB. Daniel Jones, the guy that decided to go all in on, that was another quarterback I thought that was a idiotic contract. He had one semi-decent season. I mean, everything about the guy said he was very limited. But I'm not a Jaden Daniels fan. I mean, I think he threw one pass past 10 yards last week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
sounds about right.
Yeah, I was never sold on him. Yeah, great athlete, but he had one good year. Other than that, he was mediocre or mid throughout most of his college career, both at Arizona State and at LSU. And that's so I've never been. And if you break down his tape, makes all kinds of mistakes downfield. So I wouldn't want to jump on him at all. So I have the spread at exactly 2.5. So I'm not going to touch this with a 10-foot pole.
Okay. Okay. Nothing for you, Cricket? Nothing?
No, I'm not touching any disgusting ass Giants games the rest of the year.
Oh man! So
the Pacers, they killed everything last week.
They killed everything. It wasn't even close. They didn't even give you a chance to sweat it.
And they got something about week 1. They got blown out the year before by Dallas, 40-0 week 1.
Yeah, they were what, 68-6 the last 2 week ones.
Yeah. Oh, here's the other game we were going to talk about. Colts Packers. So it looks like they're going with Malik Willis, even if they bring someone in, you can't imagine that they're going to start.
Be ready by this weekend.
Tannehill can be ready right away.
Yeah,
Malik Willis is frightening. I'm surprised he's still in the league.
Yeah, I saw that, and they didn't have a third string QB. I don't know who their practice squad QB is, but if it's Malik Willis as your backup, it can't be anything great. Is Tannehill coming off the couch? Right, he's not with anyone. Okay,
Well, wasn't that Joe Flacco last year?
I started to say the Joe Flacco effect, man.
Yeah,
that's
and
true.
Tannehill would be a perfect fit in that offensive scheme.
Yeah, he would. He would. He's got plenty of weapons too.
If they sign Tannehill, he shows up and he can play from the Bahamas. I would bet the Packers. I'll leave Packers anyway because Anthony Richardson is boom or bust, and you're going to get a lot more bust than boom over time. I think with him, I have great respect for that coaching staff. They've done a great job with the offensive. They have a great offensive line, good skill position players, guys that really fit. But Anthony Richardson would be a bust anywhere but the Colts. And it's only a matter of and I always thought Colin Kaepernick would be a bust. It just took a little time because Harbaugh hid some stuff for a couple of years. I thought Vince Young would be better, but I also thought he wouldn't last in the league. He didn't. These quarterbacks that can't make the everyday throws don't last in a passing-driven NFL. And so the Packers can – all you got to do now with Richardson is scheme up. Take away the deep route, take away the run. That's it. Because he's not going to burn you with consistent out routes across the middle routes. He'll throw 2 or 3 balls to the defense before he'll hit his own players. I mean, was his completion percentage sub 50% last week? I mean,
I think it was right around 50, if not just a pass below 50. Yeah, one completion.
I think you can wait on the line unless you think the Packers sign Tannehill and that moves the market. I think this will be a 4.5 by kickoff because
I already got 76% of the money on it right now. So
if people think the Packers suck without Love, and they think the Colts all the Richardson hype is going to stay ridiculous. It was ridiculous last year. It's still ridiculous this year. People will remember the highlight plays, and they'll forget that he missed a wide open Mitchell going right into the end zone. That he threw that before he ran into the end zone to cover that spread. I had a big bet on that +3, so I needed that. He threw it into 5 defenders. 5. Yeah. There's turnover worthy plays, and then there's turnover should have happened. Absolutely plays. It's because he doesn't see the field. I saw him. He only played 1 year at Florida, and I saw him that year, and he couldn't hit the right side of a barn with any consistency, and he threw into pressure all the time. So he's a freak athlete. I mean, he can. He's as big as Cam Newton, and he can run, almost not quite, but Lamar Jackson. I mean, so when you've got a freak athlete like that, and he's got a gun for an arm, he's enticing, but he can't hit basic out routes. He can't hit basic in routes. He can't hit basic slant routes. I mean, 80% of your passing tree, he can't throw. I mean, so I'll be fading him in these kind of situations, road favorite situations. Also, backup quarterbacks in the NFL, first time they're starting, have a long bet on situation.
Yep. Also, I feel like the average bettor doesn't respect the venue. Like Lambeau is a tough place to go play for any team, especially someone like Richardson, who is inaccurate. Also used to running on turf. Now it's going to be grass. I don't weigh too much into that. It's just a factor though. I would lean towards the Packers here. I do think that this line might move. I think money will continue to come in on the Colts, especially as we get to Friday and Saturday and you see the public come in and be like, oh, the Colts are only laying 3. I mean, they almost beat the Texans and whatnot last week. So yeah, this is a classic play. The Packers here coming off a little bit of extra rest, more desperate. Next week, we get to get into the desperation teams, the 0-2 teams versus the 2-0s. That's a good trend. But we'll talk about that next week. I want to ask you this real quick, Robert. What do you give for home field now in the NFL? I typically do 1.5. If it's in division, I do 1. There's some places though that still get like Lambeau, Seattle, Arrowhead. There's some places that I'll give a little bit more home field advantage to, but typically in the NFL, what do you give? Because it used to be 3, but I think 3 is way too much nowadays. I think it's more like in today's NFL. I think it's right around 1.5 is a good safe spot.
I usually do 2.
2?
So it's entirely in my view of home field is I believe it's almost all officiating. And then there have been books that have studied this. It's how much the officials are intimidated by the home field. And because of the NFL Red Zone and every game now is available in some context, I think that has shrunk the officiating home field bias because they know they're being watched by everybody. And so they're able to skip past the various home field intimidating effects. Now, I agree that you would probably give an extra half point to places like Kansas City because of Mahomes. The Mahomes factor with that home crowd, more pressure on the refs to officiate a certain way. And then there may be some other factors in play there too, with the league. But yeah, otherwise, it's about 2 points for home field.
What do you think about this game, Cricket?
Which one are we talking about, sir? I was reading college
Colts
football.
Packers.
Colts Packers. Yeah, man. This is one I'm probably gonna wind up staying away from right here because I just had all the question marks for Malik Willis there, and Anthony Richardson, like Bob said, is boomer bust. So there's just a lot of question marks for me, and I think you're okay. You don't have to bet them all. In this one right here, I think you are kind of flipping a coin on that thing. I wouldn't blow my mind to see the Colts win this by exactly a field goal and then be right all over that number here. So I think I'm probably just going to stay away from this one just to kind of see what Malik Willis is able to do in that offense because I know it's not going to be anything to write home about really, but can he manage the game, not turn the ball over, and allow some of those weapons, get him the ball in space, allow him to make plays. You got Josh Jacobs in the running game that could, if you can shorten the game up there and be able to run the ball against the Colts. But as far as Malik Willis goes, I don't have a lot of faith there. So I'll probably just stay away right here because neither quarterback for me is just a world beater.
Okay. Curious carnivore. Had to go buzz my beard when I saw the unshaven pharmacist went babyface today. Yeah, my 4-year-old wanted me to shave, so I shaved. That's what you do, kids.
Good morning, carnivore. Good to see you, man.
Good morning. Yeah, it's good to see you in here. Monday Night Football next week's going to be a fun one. Falcons and Eagles. And the Eagles, man, are getting a lot of love here. I'm high on the Eagles, but this number, 6.5, seems a little seems like we might be overreacting. But right now, it's a stay away for me, but I don't know. Sharp money and big money coming in on the Eagles. 96% of the money on the Eagles. I don't like that. But I have concerns over Kirk Cousins, the fact that he didn't take a snap under center. There's questions about is he really as healthy as they're letting on. You did make a good point, Robert, about just bad turnovers and be able to move the ball. I got to go back and look at the overall total yards and whatnot in that game. And the Steelers defense is still the Steelers defense. I just thought it was funny. The classics. What's more Steelers than winning a football game without scoring a touchdown? That's the Steelers. But Falcons, Eagles, Monday Night Football. What do you got in this one, Robert?
So you do have the worry about Kirk Cousins in prime time when he's always struggled.
Yes.
And his Achilles injury, unlike Aaron Rodgers' injury, is to his plant foot, and he did look a little bit limited in movement. I mean, his anticipation and timing is still fantastic. Now he's playing with new receivers, new offensive line, to some degree a new offensive scheme, though it's very comparable to what he's been playing in for quite a while. And you could see a little bit like there were a couple of hitches here or there that were just a little bit off. But otherwise, his anticipation, his timing was fantastic. I saw nothing in his arm strength or his mental acuity that suggested any slowness. And it wasn't like he was a freak athlete. So I think you look at, a couple of, like, for example, it's a little bit luck that when you get hit, the ball happens to get intercepted. Right. I mean, a lot of times when a quarterback gets hit, about 80% of the time, that ball will not get intercepted. He had one earlier in the game that actually got completed. That was a little bit bad luck. The fumble was not caused by the defense at all. It was just a complete fluke snap issue. That's points off the board right there. The Steelers did a great job of shrinking the game because the other factor was I think they had 7-8 possessions. They had very few possessions because the Steelers were good enough with Fields at running the ball they could eat up clock. That even though they weren't, they couldn't move it inside the red zone much. And basically it was just run the ball and George Pickens make a great play for us. And that was the whole Steelers game plan. But so I think that's why like this week another ugly dog I like is earlier on the board is the Broncos. Broncos at home in Mile High. The Steelers is a favorite. Tomlin, great record as an underdog. Not such a great record as a favorite, as a road favorite. The Steelers still the same offensive problems they had last year. And, yeah, J.J. Watt is healthy right now. He has not been able to stay healthy throughout a whole season. He is clearly a game changer. But, the Falcons' running game looked very good last week against a good Steelers run defense. So they were just a little bit off in their passing plays. The they got to Cousins right at the right perfect time to have certain things go a certain way. But when I watched that game, I was like, Falcons are going to be a good offense this year. It'll take a little bit of rhythm. But people forget me, last year, the Vikings came into this situation with Cousins and absolutely should have won the game. It was flukish how they didn't win that game against the Eagles in Philly. And so on the flip side, Eagles look good. They're still going to be adjusting defensively. That Vic Fangio system is very complicated. So it usually takes week 4, week 5 before they end up getting rolling in defensively. But I think you look at it otherwise, I would say if this line gets above 7, definitely would bet Falcons. I would still take the Falcons at getting 6 or more because I think they're in a good bounce back situation. And I think the Eagles are good, very good team. But I don't think they should be 7, touchdown plus favorites against another good team, even at home.
It's too early in the season for that. Cricket says power just flickered. He'll be right back. Yeah, I agree with you on that. And we'll see. This one's going to be one. I do. If you get the Falcons to 7, or even right now, you get a good teaser leg, because these primetime games tend to, I mean, last night it went over, but I feel like had that been competitive, had the Jets not turned the ball over a couple times on their own side of the field, maybe this game last night would have went under. But we'll see. But primetime under. So if you can get like double digits with a good team that can keep it close in a primetime game that usually goes under, that's probably a good way to look. Definitely would lean towards the Falcons just with all the money so far coming on the Eagles here. What was I going to say also about Kirk Cousins? He that interception. Oh, I was going to ask you this too. So he went that there was one interception that he had. So he had 2, but there was one where it was just a bad, it was a bad read, or I don't know what he was looking at. He just threw it terrible.
It was a twofold factor. He gets hit when he's throwing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that on both interceptions, he got hit when he was throwing them. And so he's trying to throw to the receiver cutting out, and the ball flattens out. And so it looks like a bad throw. Now, I don't think he saw the underneath defender, but I don't think he planned on throwing that ball in. I think he planned on throwing it out, and he got hit. So the receiver's coming in, and the defender cuts in front of it. But the both of those I thought were, the Steelers are great at bringing pressure, always have been. And Cousins, that they got him right at the right time. But that's where the odds of you getting 2 picks. I think he only got hit like 6 times, 7 times, something while throwing.
Only got sacked twice.
Yep. Sacked twice. And he got hit while throwing, at least 4 times that I remember. And 2 of the 4 ended up being picks. That's basically luck. So I didn't see, I thought the Falcons, what I was concerned about was Falcons defense up front. Would guys work? They got, a player back from the injury, and then they added Matt Judon. They look fine defensively. Look solid. I mean, it doesn't surprise me too much with the Raheem Morris team that they were solid defensively. But that was good to see. And it was like their offense. I was watching them play. They're going to be fine. It might take them another week or 2, but I don't think they want to go down 0-2. I think that they'll be a live dog in this game.
I love all the Arthur Smith memes during that game of him just confused of, oh, you can hand the ball off to Bijan 4 times in the first drive. It kind of works. Use your running back. A couple overall takeaways from week 1. I know it's a small sample size, but one thing I wanted to get your opinion on was quarterbacks. We didn't see many quarterbacks throw over 200 yards. That was kind of crazy in today's NFL. Maybe part of that just has to do with, fatigue in these games. I mean, we saw a lot of teams like the Jags we mentioned, but a lot of teams like Titans couldn't score in the second half, so maybe that was a big part of it. Maybe it was defense adjustments. I don't know. Did you notice that? You take anything from that, or is it just week 1 football? We got to just monitor it.
I mean, I think it's something to pay attention to more broadly, because last year was the first step back offensively for the league in many years. And this is the second time, so you can look at week 1 to week 1, and this was one of the lowest passing touchdown week 1 totals for quarterbacks other than last year in like a decade.
And Baker Mayfield's leading the league in passing touchdowns.
Yes. I think if you're the league, I think they wanted to adjust and not have it get too offensive oriented like it did at times during the pandemic year. but they might have overreacted because offense is still what brings people in. It's what excites people. It's what drives the fantasy football markets, etc. I don't think they want to return to defensive-oriented football. And so I don't think they want to see a lot of Steelers 18-10 kind of games. Not in the modern fan base, not the modern contemporary NFL, especially NFL is trying to go global. You want games like the Colts Texans. You want games like the Packers Eagles. You don't want games like the Steelers Falcons, and you don't want games like the Patriots and Bengals. So I'll be curious to see, do they, like, when this has happened in the past, the league is adjusted by changing what rules they enforce.
Well, that's another factor in too. You lose yardage, which the next thing I want to talk about is the kickoff rule. But you lose yardage with how many times they called illegal formation. I mean, they do this every single year. The NFL changes the rule and they enforce it hard in week 1. We saw that on Thursday night, against the Ravens, and then last night we saw it against the Jets and stuff. And it seems like they overreact too much, and then they kind of simmer down after a couple weeks. But they try to make a point to these teams like, hey, we really want to enforce this. And so it gets, so there's some extra yardage there that doesn't show up because 5 yards, 10 yards, here and there.
They were giving the defensive line an edge because the rule they were enforcing was the offensive line being the tackles being a step back so they could handle the pass rush more. And so I found it interesting that, granted, that's always been the rule, but if that's the one you're going to enforce, you're helping the defense. So
you are. And then I like how Jason Kelce broke it down. Him and actually TJ Watt went back and forth on X, had a good conversation about it. But after the Baltimore game, it's because your helmet's supposed to be lined up with the center's waist, but Baltimore's dude, his feet are where they're supposed to be. It's just his posture is straight up, so it's actually a disadvantage if he's got to lean over more like that. So I thought that was a good conversation, good insight from actual players. But it's definitely a huge edge. Did you think TJ Watt was offsides on that one? Did you see that play?
I did see the play, but I watched everything on the condensed game replays on the NFL Network. So I don't get to see the replay of those plays.
He said he had a cue. He knew their snap count the whole game. Like he knew something. It was close. I think that one he was offsides, but he was spot on. He was good in that one. And the last thing I want to talk about before we switch over to college football is the new kickoff rule. We got to see that. I think we thought these guys were going to get pretty creative, and maybe they will later in the season. But it feels like a lot of the teams are just saying, you know what, screw it. We're gonna just kick it to the back of the end zone and let you start on the 30 because I could try to get cute and put it out the 1 and make you return it, but then that risks my guys getting hit and getting injured. I think right now they're just saying, you know what, no, let's just kick it to the back of the end zone. But as we saw in that Falcons-Steelers game, they might have, there's going to be situations where you do need to kick it short and gamble on it because they gave the Steelers a chance to kick a field goal at the end of the half because they let them start on the 30. And we saw, the average starting spot last year was 26. This week 1, the average starting spot was 30. So, 4 points difference. I thought it would be about 3. It's about 4 yards difference. Did you take anything away from the new kickoff rule?
There were some people that said that analysts preseason said that there a lot of teams would, rather than try to figure this out, would just kick in the end zone. And it was interesting how many did that because the average starting field position when you don't kick in the end zone is the 28. So they're just giving up 2 yards in exchange for not giving up the risk of a bigger play. Now I would just say if you're kicking to the Bears, always kick to the guy because that guy has a gift of fumbling. But that was one of the unique ways of fumble and kick it to the other team. That was one ugly game. That was just Will Levis was atrocious. Atrocious. Williams was atrocious, and even the special teams were atrocious, and all kinds of crazy things happened. I had the under in that game, and I gave up 20 points off of turnovers, 14 points off returns, and still got the under.
Yeah, still got it.
That's how bad those two teams are offensively.
You know what I am disappointed in, though, is that we got this new rule, and you could be very strategic, and we know there's one guy that loves exploiting rules, and that's Bill Belichick, and we don't get to see how he would approach it this season. I would have loved
that's true, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he always finds that little angle, that little
wrinkle in there, yeah.
Yeah, the guy, like last year, it was the guy running to block the extra point or the field goal thing, right? He finds a little he gets creative. And I still think we're going to see that for some teams as we get to more bigger games. Maybe even in some teams will have something for the playoffs, but that's a long ways away. But I'm going to hop out of here and let you guys talk a little college ball. Thanks for joining us, Robert. This has been fun. And I'm excited to listen to you guys talk some college ball. What do you guys one more thing before I leave. I was thinking about this. I like building up a little portfolio on futures or anything like that, because I'm like a gardener. Robert, I love hedging to guarantee a profit. If I can find, that's why I love NFL teasers, 3-leg teasers, especially because I love hedging to guarantee a profit. Even if it's just a little profit, I'll take the profit. So I'm kind of building up a college football portfolio since we have, expanded playoffs this year. As long as you get a team in, you're live. Your Vols, you guys' Vols. I'm thinking about adding that to the old portfolio. They look good. Huh?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, they just don't have the elite talent you typically need in terms of depth. That you typically need to get there. Now they have a friendly schedule. There's only 2 teams. It was always a 3-game schedule: NC State, Georgia, and Alabama. Georgia and Alabama were the only real talent competitors on that roster. I mean, they have good teams, but not teams that they should lose to. Now their defense is very scheme driven, so there's always, it's not talent riddled. What they've done smart is stack the defensive line. So they've invested all their talent in the defensive line, but back 7, real shaky. And what will happen is one game of the year they'll get torched because when you depend so much on scheme, there's like what happened to NC State. Their defense has always relied on scheme more so than talent. And when that happens, there's going to be a game or two a year that you're going to get outed. Though I think their quarterback was the product of a unique system at Coastal Carolina, NC State, that isn't translating to different team, different conference. Though that still doesn't explain Brock Vandergrift's performance for Georgia, the transfer. We'll get to that in a bit. So I get all the hype. I think with Heupel, with that quarterback, they can beat anybody on a given day. But think they're a little bit better, but they're a lot like Lincoln Riley's Oklahoma teams. Dynamite offensively, not completely dependable defensively, just because they just don't have the same talent level the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States do. Now they're probably as talented as Oregon. Oregon, I thought, was overrated all year coming into the year. People keep telling they have this elite talent. They should have lost to Idaho, and then they should have lost to the other school from Idaho, Boise State, last week.
Yeah,
so that's a way overrated team. I'm hoping they get exposed and we don't have to deal with them. I guess they'll probably be in the playoffs just from hype. The Notre Dame's hype got burst early last week with losing as a 28-point favorite, which that coach, I believe, has done twice before. Lost at home as a double-digit favorite or more to a no-name brand, Marshall and others. So I think Tennessee really good. Would I buy their national title futures? No.
Okay. I was thinking, because it'd be hard for them to make the playoffs, I think, with 2 losses, even if they were close to Georgia and Alabama. They could, depending on how things shake up this season. But if I did buy a ticket, I would be laying the points then with when they play Georgia or Alabama, just as a hedge against it. So I'll have to look and see how I can do it. I have to look.
Yeah, Nico's the real deal. He's designed for that offense. So that they will be dynamite offensively. And with a good defensive line, you can hang with anybody defensively. And they have the most underrated defensive coordinator in college football. Comes off the Penn State coaching tree. He's been fantastic for years. I mean, they've been every year a range of talent-based predictors have said that Tennessee's defense will be below average, and we've been above average every single year he's coached. He's just schematically genius. That the question is, what happens when you face a super talented, smart, offensively coached team like Georgia and like Alabama? I wouldn't bet on us in those situations. But you're right. Easy hedges. You could take a Tennessee future and then hedge by taking Georgia or Alabama later in the year.
All right. I just may do that. Well, gentlemen, this has been fun. You guys have a good rest of the stream. Robert, we'll see you next week. And Cricket, I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir. Sounds good, man. You have a good day.
Later, guys.
All right, Robert, I'm going to get this pulled up in here. We'll talk a little college football, but I want to get your opinion, your takeaway from week 2. We had some exciting things go on. We had some teams drop the ball really, really bad. I mean, you look at Oregon right there, squeaking it out against Boise State. Our Vols blew the doors off in the top 25 matchup down in Charlotte. Georgia handles business against a team we knew they would. Ohio State, the same thing. Then we got Texas going into the big house and really handling business like we knew they were going to do there. Alabama struggles for much of their game, but winds up, kind of blowing the doors off late there. Northern Illinois, we all know about that. Notre Dame, boy, they got to feel real rough about themselves. We don't know who Ole Miss is just yet because they're playing cupcakes. Penn State really looked ugly in that thing against the Bowling Green team. Nobody expected to be able to stay on the field with them. Missouri also hasn't been tested. Utah, there's a lot of question marks about whether Cam Rising is going to be able to still go. Got pushed into some water coolers last week and hurt his hand, and that offense was absolutely abysmal after he left the game. Miami untested. USC handles business. Oklahoma had a much tighter one than people expected. They were also about 4 touchdown favorites in that thing. Arkansas and Oklahoma State put on a show for us this weekend in a game that looked really, really ugly early on. Kansas State struggled on the road at Tulane. LSU did not look great against Nicholls State. So just what was your overall take? Arizona, another team that struggled. The Iowa State game was a clunker like it usually is. But what was your overall opinion? What teams kind of separated themselves to look better in week 2, and what teams kind of let us down there?
Well, even your elite teams have shown fragility. Everybody but Georgia has really shown fragility. The Alabama took them late to rally against South Florida. They had some backups on their offensive line, but that's the second season in a row that South Florida's defensive line is beat up on Alabama's offensive line. The Ohio State, much better last week than the week before, but they were slow out of the gates to play against Akron. So suggesting that the quarterback situation isn't quite perfectly fixed there in ways that they had hoped. Indeed, McCord has looked better for Syracuse than the K-State transfer has looked for the Buckeyes. Then Oregon was way overrated. Michigan was overrated. Like all this excitement about Texas, good game by Texas, no doubt. I think we called it last week. Said Texas, said Tennessee, said Nebraska. All 3 hit if you took those free picks from the show. But the reality is Michigan is a way overrated team. I mean, they have no quarterback. They have a pedestrian offensive line. They have a converted linebacker, defensive back that's now playing is their best running back. Donovan Edwards always been overrated. There's a reason why he came back to play in college football. He wasn't going to get drafted last year. The wide receiver core is a joke. They got one player as their tight end, and even he made mistakes against Texas. The defensive line, they keep, so-and-so is a number 1 pick. Based on what? Some of these guys that they're projecting is just way overhyped on Michigan. Michigan's linebackers, pedestrian. Elite defense, they're no elite defense. They got 1 defensive back in Will Johnson. They got 2 solid, but not spectacular defensive tackles. It's a team that's, Harbaugh covered over so many flaws in that Michigan team, with the way in which he developed talent, the way in which he schematically came up with game plans, the way he built that team. You remove Harbaugh and most of the players that he had developed, Michigan was going to drop back to being a good but not elite team, which is where Michigan has been throughout most of its modern football history. And they decided not to go deep into the transfer portal, not to heavily use NIL, and you see the consequences of it. You could, and people forget what has happened to Harbaugh's teams after Harbaugh left them. Whether it's
pretty bad.
Exactly. University of San Diego, major drop-off. Stanford, major drop-off. 49ers, major drop-off. Expect a major drop-off from Michigan. It would not surprise me if Michigan struggles to make a bowl game this year. They're not a great team. So good performance by Texas, but it was because Michigan was so overrated that performance was put such value was put upon it. I think they're a good team. Texas is another team I think is like Oregon. They're a good team. They're not an elite team. Like people just look and break down their talent. They're not in the same class as Alabama. They're not in the same class as Georgia. They're not in the same class as Ohio State. And yet you see all these prognosticators putting them there. And it's why I always recommend having an objective third-party metric for your talent assessment, because otherwise you'll it's easy to stick in your subjective valuation to some of this talent. It's like, I'm a big Tennessee fan, but my objective metrics say Tennessee's a good team, not an elite team.
Right.
They don't have defensive depth in the back seven. And that's tough to have that positionally. Sometimes you can get away with you're like Clemson for years. Just your backups are mediocre or average. And as long as your top, as long as your first string doesn't get hurt, you can compete with anybody. And by the way, Clemson showed last week, the way they bounced back showed how good Georgia's performance was in week 1. So, Georgia's the full team. But everyone else really struck me as vulnerable. You can beat Alabama on the right day. You can beat Ohio State on the right day. And then once you drop out of those, there's a lot of good competitive teams. I think probably the most overrated at this point is now Texas. People have Texas 1 or 2 in the country. It's like, well, watch Georgia go down and beat the daylights out of Texas and Austin.
So we're going to get to see that one too.
Yep.
So in a couple weeks, that for me, Michigan. I said it yesterday. I think Michigan's about to take a major downturn. You didn't get hit too hard in the portal there, but I think you're going to see a lot of those guys jump ship when this season doesn't go the way that was planned. They had the high expectations still coming off the defending national champion. I didn't think they should have been in the top 10, in my opinion there. I thought the quarterback play was going to drop off drastically, and I thought you did lose a lot of beasts on that defense there that was really going to leave some holes to fill. So I thought Michigan was going to take a major drop off, and I think that could continue for the next couple of years, man. I think Sherrod Moore there kind of got put in a bad spot. I hate that that's his first spot he gets a head coaching job at, because it's really kind of a lose-lose situation. I think it's going to be very, very tough for him to win with that roster. And, I just feel like Michigan is about to take a major step back for probably the next couple of years. We saw that before Harbaugh came in. They were not a good team in college football. They were one of the doormats, really, compared to their history. And I think Michigan's about to go kind of back to that level there, at least for the next 4 years. Maybe they bring Harbaugh back or something.
Well, especially with an expanded Big Ten.
Oh, yeah.
Harbaugh faces saying, I don't think Harbaugh's ever going back to college. He's going to stay in the pro game forever now.
I think so. I think after whenever he's done with the Chargers, I believe that'll probably be his last stop. He's not getting any younger, that's for sure. But we want to dive into some of these games. You gave me 5 that you wanted to talk about, and if it's all right with you, I would like to add a couple, because I do have a couple that I absolutely love, and I want to get your opinion on it. And this first one here, I don't really have an opinion on this game, but I did want to get your opinion on it, because both these teams looked pretty bad last week. But this is a top 25 matchup. It's going to be on Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. But you got the Arizona Wildcats, who looked real rough against the Northern Arizona team that is not very good. Should not have been able to stay on the same field as Arizona. And they had to battle back. Wound up winning it by 2 touchdowns, I think 22-10. But they had to battle back late in that thing. And then Kansas State goes down on the road to Tulane. And Tulane really giving them all they want in that thing. And Kansas State was the beneficiary of a late controversial offensive pass interference penalty. They also had the 60-yard fumble scoop and score, where the redshirt freshman Mensah for Tulane had played very well, threw for 342 yards, but did have that play late in the game where he scrambled back 15 yards, got sacked, and turned the ball over. They picked it up and wound up being the difference in the game. So right now, Kansas State's sitting at -7 at home against Arizona. What's your opinion on this one? Both these teams look bad. Who bounces back?
Well, I think Arizona underestimated the loss of their head coach to Washington, so that even though a good number of players stayed, the coaching staff they brought in is good at building a program, but doesn't usually have immediate success. And I just think that was a tough transition. And there was a lot of excitement over Arizona that I thought was misplaced, that ignored the Jed Fish effect. And then you look at Kansas State, it's another program like Oklahoma that so loved their young quarterback, they let their veteran go. That's part of why the Kansas State quarterback transferred to Ohio State. Part of it was to cash in, but part of it was he knew he was going to be replaced if he stayed at Kansas State. Mm-hmm. Same with Gabriel at Oklahoma. He knew he was going to be replaced, so he left and went to Oregon, partially to get the cash. Now, of note, your top college quarterbacks are getting paid more than Brock Purdy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. That the average pay is over $1 million. Brock Purdy's still making less than $1 million. God bless those rookie contracts. So another example of that is Kansas State. This quarterback was so hyped, and I was like, I'm not quite seeing it. I get he's a great athlete, but I'm not seeing, good, consistent pass play. And that's what we've seen the first 2 weeks. Kansas State's offense, he's not a great passer at all, not very refined at all. So they're going to be a even more run-dependent team. And then Kansas State's always smart schematically defensively, but they're another team that depends on scheme defensively. And they're another team that how they handle the transfer portal is going to be very interesting to watch, because if they really excel, then they could stay as a now dominant team in a new Big 12. Or if they miss, they could look like Florida State, which is, favored by less than a touchdown at home to Memphis, the former program that the head coach came from, which is embarrassing if you're a Knowles fan.
Mhm.
So the used to be Memphis State, but then they decided to become pretentious and call themselves the University of Memphis. So I think I would lean Kansas State in this game just because I think Arizona has some real issues. I mean, Arizona last year brought in a bunch of really talented defensive line recruits. Those guys are all gone. And so I think that they're back to being a suspect defense and an erratic offense against it going into Manhattan, little Manhattan there in Kansas, where Kansas State's always been tough, where they can rely. If they can run the ball, Kansas State's going to beat you. If you can slow down their running game, you can beat Kansas State. And if you can hit some explosive plays like Tulane did last week, and Arizona's definitely capable of that, and you could see that too. So probably won't have my pick would be Kansas State for the game just because it's Kansas State at home, and I think in a favorable matchup where they can run the ball and defensively scheme. But it should be one of the better games on the schedule Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's actually Friday night on that one, 8 p.m.
Friday night.
night.
Yeah. So Friday night under the lights in Manhattan. That makes me even more lean towards Kansas State.
That's what I'm thinking. It's another one of those games that feels kind of like the Tennessee game last week, the Texas game last week, where you got a top 25 matchup with two teams high expectations preseason, and then you come in here, and I don't feel like Arizona, you should be giving that many points to Arizona unless you're drastically better than them from a talent perspective there. So I feel like the books, once again, trying to beg you to take Arizona in that thing, seeing the top 25 matchup. But I think I lean Kansas State in that one. But I probably will ultimately wind up staying away in that game. If I had to get, let's not see the line do something crazy between now and Friday night, I'll probably wind up staying away from that one. But moving on to Saturday, we got a noon kickoff up in Madison, Wisconsin, between Alabama and Wisconsin. And I think I absolutely love the Tide. I said it when I first saw the line come out at minus 15.5. I don't have a lot of respect for the Wisconsin team. I know it Luke Fickell's second season there, but I don't think they have a lot of overall talent on that team. I actually bet against them when they played Western Michigan in week one. Western Michigan getting 23 points, and they only lost 28-14, so came through for us there. Alabama struggled last week in South Florida, looked really, really bad in spots there, but we're able to show you they still have a lot of talent on that team and stretch it out in the end. I think I love Alabama. I loved them at minus 15.5. Now it's moved out to minus 16 this morning. I still think I love Alabama in this game. This feels like a prime Alabama spot we've seen in recent years. I know Nick Saban's not there, but when they have a struggling week the week before against a team that they were supposed to blow the doors off against, and then they come out the next week in more of a respectable matchup, and the line looks like it shrinks up farther than it should, I think it should be closer to 20.5 in favor of Alabama in this game. So what's your opinion on this one? I think I love the Tide this week, Bob.
Yeah, it's the size of the spread. So this is going to be on national TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so double-digit home underdogs on national TV have a very high cover rate.
Okay.
And there's like different theories as to why. One theory is that if it's on national TV, then it probably shouldn't be a double-digit spread. Mm-hmm. Another theory is that the team really gets motivation. There's a motivational gap that the road team takes them lightly because they recognize they're such big favorites, and the home team takes it as an insult. It is Luke Fickell. It is Madtown. So I would go back to some of the Ohio State games against Wisconsin over the years in Madison, some of the Michigan games, and it depends. You can either get blowouts or you can get surprise upsets. So I don't like I think Alabama is the most talented team in the country. I like their coaching staff. I think they'll be just fine on both sides of the ball. In fact, I thought they were an upgrade, frankly, over who Saban had coordinating the roster. On both sides of the ball in recent years. Wisconsin tried to go to an offense that doesn't work up north. They should have stuck with a power run offense, not try to do Phil Longo's version of the air raid. It just doesn't fly. Luke Fickell thought it would. It didn't. A lot of your defensive coaches get caught up in these creative offensive schemes when they become head coaches. You kind of did the same in Cincinnati. The offense was never their strength. It was always their defense. It was talent-wise, Alabama has a massive edge. But my power ratings put this at 14. So I don't like it because it's on national TV, because Madtown is going to be absolutely mad with Alabama coming to town, because Luke Fickell is a elite defensive coach, because this Alabama head coach, when he was at Washington, had a habit of winning these games, but winning them close. And then I look at last week. It's a one-score game at home against South Florida in the fourth quarter. I mean, they poured it on late, but that would so anything over 14, I take Wisconsin.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I just to be right there, I'll watch it a little closer.
But it wouldn't surprise the blowout wouldn't surprise me because Wisconsin's quarterback and passing game suck.
I just, we have to being Vols fans, we have to pay attention to Alabama whether we like to or not. And I just feel like I've seen this spot way too many times before where Alabama looked real lackluster the week before, and they come out in a much more respectable matchup the next week and then wind up really, really handling business. So that's part of, I think maybe it's some of my PTSD from the past and seeing Alabama do what they do that's got me feeling that way. So I'll watch that one a little more closer going into the weekend. But this was we're about to hop into the games you want to talk about. But LSU and South Carolina is interesting to me. You got a South Carolina team that really didn't look great against Old Dominion in week 1, won that game by 4 points, then goes up to Kentucky last week as 9-point dogs and really blows the doors off, winning that thing 31-6 right there. And you got LSU lost in week 1 to USC out in Vegas, and then comes in and kind of struggles against a Nicholls State team that they should have literally walked all over and beat by 50. They wound up winning it by 3+ touchdowns, but they had to salt it away in the end there. I feel like giving South Carolina a touchdown right here in a road SEC game. It's a noon kickoff. It's going to be pretty raucous atmosphere down there in Columbia. I think I love South Carolina getting the touchdown right here. What you think?
I don't know. It's South Carolina. So, we were on South Carolina, both money line and points, after a bad week 1 against Old Dominion at home against Kentucky, because they always give Kentucky trouble, especially in recent years, and they went in and knocked them off straight up. The flip side, though, is an LSU defense looked like shaky again last week against a very bad lower ranked team, lower conference, lower division team. But their real weakness, LSU, is the pass defense, and South Carolina is still not really throwing the ball a whole lot. And that pass offense looks real shaky. And their defense is solid, but that LSU quarterback is legit. And then you look at it talent wise. We go to the 24/7 composite ratings. Like we go to SEC. I'm pretty sure. Let's see how big LSU's edge is. So, LSU's got 5 5-star, 46 4-star players. So the LSU likely has about 20 NFL players on their roster, which is very good. Mm-hmm. And you get to South Carolina and you're looking at fewer than around 10. So historically, I would favor LSU by 10 in this situation from a power rating perspective.
Okay.
So because I have some doubts about how quickly their defense is improving and South Carolina can be, I would like South Carolina a lot more if they were double digits in this game. So I assume this is going to be the nationally televised SEC game of the week. I don't like 7. I don't like 7 coming off a loss. Coming off a big win for South Carolina. Right. So at 7 or less, I'll take LSU.
Yeah, I think I've let you talk me off of that one there. I think that's one where the books are trying to trick me too, trying to beg me to take that 7 with South Carolina at home. It looks so pretty. I think I've let you talk me off of that one right there. But this is one of the games you wanted to talk about. Memphis at Florida State. Talk about Mike Norvell being the former coach at Memphis, has come down and had a solid year last year, but we know about what's going on at Florida State so far this year, and it's real, real ugly. But I'm going to have to hear what you got to say about this one, but I'm almost leaning to take Florida State under a touchdown right there at -6.5. There's still some talent on that team, and, they got to get right at some point. I don't think they're going to go 0 and whatever. So is this a spot where I could take the Noles, Bob?
So from a talent perspective, the spread should be Florida State by 17. So you've got a massive gap from a talent-based power rating perspective. The question is there for some reason, there's always a team or two each year in the last 10 years who way, way, way underachieves their talent rating because something doesn't blend, because there's a massive quarterback mix, because there's problems on the locker room or off the field. For some reason, they just don't click. And the fear is that that's this season's Florida State's team because of their back-to-back straight-up losses as double-digit favorites, including that humiliating, embarrassing whooping by Boston College on college football's version of Monday Night Football. On the flip side, this is a Florida State coach that came from Memphis. The idea that he's off a bye week, the idea that he's going to let his former team with a lot less talent come in and compete with Florida State in Tallahassee. If that happens, the wheels are completely off Florida State. Mm-hmm. And he is, despite his big buyout, would be on the clock In other words, he would need to have a great next year in order to survive, or he would himself quickly be on the hot seat. It's just the kind of game, the situation. You're 0-2 after starting top 10. You're just coming off your bye week. You're playing your former lower ranked school at home. If that's a situation that if you believe in Florida State's coach, that he can get enough out of the talent, then you bet the Noles in this game. If you think the Noles are completely toast, then you bet Memphis. I'm going to bet. I'm not a huge fan of this coach, but I'm not a huge critic either. The talent gap between these rosters is massive. Well, I think Florida State, the key with DJU is he just needs a good running game, and he works fine as a play action quarterback. And again, he's had a whole bye week to prepare for this game.
Right.
So Memphis does not have a stacked defense at all. So, let me take a look at how they've done so far. I mean, they've played nobody, but even looking at, talent-wise, like I said, massive gap. But if you just look at their rushing defense so far, it's been good so far, but it's North Alabama and Troy. So
that's what I'm saying. You don't have a really big, you can't really
Troy's
judge much off those games.
I think the key is if Florida State can line up, you could also bet this game live. If Florida State can go up and run the ball, whole different ball game. They control the clock. They control field position. DJU sets up well for play action. They can get rolling. I think given how the gap of talent between these two teams and given the situation, I'll bet Florida State.
That's what I'm thinking. You look at the games where DJ Jai-Alai has been successful in his career. It is those games where they get the play action roll, and they should be able to run the ball against this Memphis team. Going back to his games at Florida State last year when they had Damian Martinez up there, who's now at Miami. But when they could really run the ball and take the pressure off him where he could utilize the play action, that's when he was at his best. And I think they should be able to do that against this Memphis team. I know the defense has looked good so far, but like you said, not against anybody that really is any count. So I think I like Florida State in this game this week, just due to the big talent disparity and him being the former coach at Memphis. I don't think he's going to be geared up ready to go for this one. Moving on to the Civil War. This is early. This might be the new rivalry week in college football now that we got all these teams in different conferences. But Oregon at Oregon State. Oregon State is getting 16.5 points at home. And what I've seen out of the Oregon Ducks in the first 2 weeks, only winning by 10 to the Idaho Vandals, who are a very, very solid FCS school. But then you go to Boise State, who's probably one of the leaders for the Group of 5 playoff spot this year. A lot of teams expect them to be in that mix. But still, I don't feel like, you got to combine 13 points and wins there against two teams that you were heavily, heavily favored in these games. I feel like Oregon's got all kinds of problems here. And I feel like in a game like this, a rivalry game that always seems to play close in my mind, 16.5 feels like a lot of points to give the Beavers here, Bob.
Yeah, I'm hoping it climbs to 17 or higher, because that would be a really nice number to get. But this is a rivalry game, always has been. It's particularly big for Oregon State because there is no longer a Pac-12 other than they in Washington State. So this is their one shot, and it's an early shot at Oregon. And the issues with Oregon were predictable. Two things. One, Oregon's not an elite talent team. They're very good, but they're not an elite talent. All this hype about, if you look it up, let's see where where is Oregon? So on the composite ratings, think about all the things you've heard from people all year about where is Oregon? That's interesting. So we'll keep going. Try this again. So if you go to 24/7's composite ratings. Oh, I see what I've done. And you start off with teams like Oregon's not in the top 5. Oregon's below. How many people have pointed out that Oregon has less talent than Clemson from a recruiting ranking perspective? Right.
Right.
A good team, but not exactly a super elite team. Now, Oregon State, talent-wise, always just average. So from a talent rating perspective, the line should be 14. So you're getting some value. You're really getting value if you get over that key number of 17. But Oregon State's playing at home. It's clearly going to be regional TV. I don't know if it's going to be national TV or not, but it's definitely going to be regional. It'll be available nationwide.
Yeah.
The Oregon State, solid little team, went into San Diego State, took care of business, solid defensively, want to run the ball. The Oregon last week showed problems. That's Boise State. Boise State can't throw the ball very well. They have the best running back in college football, a guy a lot of people probably haven't heard of, unless you really deeply follow college football, but could be so good he could be a first-round draft pick, which is rare for running backs in the modern NFL.
That guy is good.
I mean, Genti is a different animal, and they haven't even unleashed him in the passing game, and he's very good actually as a receiver out of the backfield. So this will be another chance for him to shine. So I mean, the Oregon State crowd is going to be nuts. This is the opportunity to play their former Pac-12 rival early in the season. I mean, it matters more to Oregon State than Oregon this game because of how it shapes up, because of the conference switch. And the issue with Oregon, aside from there being a very good but not super elite talent team, not even in the top 5 in consensus recruiting rankings talent-wise, good, but not Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, is twofold. One is Bo Nix was underappreciated last year. Like if you watch the film on him last year, he had fully developed. He was hitting. There's a reason why Sean Payton liked him so much. He was making extraordinary deep. He was their deep passing offense. Was Bo Nix. His accuracy was uncanny on deep passes. His receivers actually let him down, and Troy Franklin was explosive. They don't have that this year. If you've watched Dylan Gabriel over the years, can he throw a deep ball? Yes, but it's not like a Bo Nix deep ball. It's a deep ball that mostly works against subpar competition. Now, Oregon State doesn't necessarily have elite defense. It's good, but not an elite defensive talent. But Boise has a terrible secondary, and Oregon couldn't exploit it consistently down the field. Idaho is an atrocious secondary. They couldn't exploit it consistently down the field. So the other problem is that they're running back. So contrary to conventional wisdom, there was a major step down at quarterback. I mean, just ask, why was Oklahoma so eager to go to, I mean, yeah, Arnold's highly touted, but why were they so eager to go to their backup rather than pay Gabriel? Right? Gabriel's a solid college quarterback who in the right system, like a Heupel type system, can do well. He'll be very accurate in short to medium passes, but he's not as explosive as Nix was. And the offensive line also isn't nearly as dominant as they've made it out to be. They've struggled in back-to-back weeks against very subpar competition. So all this lines up to me. It'll be the Oregon State or pass for me.
That's fair. I think I can't fathom taking or giving more than 16.5 points there in a rivalry game that I always seem to play pretty close, especially when I've seen Oregon look so rough early on in this thing against teams that I felt like they should have blown the doors off against. So for me, 16.5 feels like a whole lot of points to be given Oregon State in that game, especially when they're going to be playing in Corvallis.
And just think of it. Last week, they're favored by they finished at 19 at home against Boise. Oregon State's a more talented team than Boise, and this one's on the road, and it's a rivalry.
Right.
So it's like this line doesn't make sense.
I wound up taking Boise State plus 10.5 at plus 175 last week. I just felt like that line was far too big, and seeing it drive down right before kickoff, it just felt funny. And it felt like a game that the Broncos were going to be in, and they definitely were. They had every chance to win that thing.
Oh, Oregon had, for those people who don't know, Oregon had 2 returns for touchdowns.
Yeah.
Their offense didn't generate 37 points. Their offense generated like 23 points.
Yeah, and not a game where a team like that with that much talent is supposed to be getting saved by special teams touchdowns. So definitely something I think you got some pause for concern there if you're an Oregon fan. Another one we want to talk about today, we had Georgia traveling up to Kentucky. Kentucky got the doors blown off against South Carolina last week, and this Georgia team is much better than that South Carolina team. Georgia only laying 24 here. I don't believe that's enough, Bob. I believe Georgia's about to come in and blow the doors off of this team. What you think?
I like Kentucky because this is a classic Kentucky kind of situation.
Okay.
Coming off a bad loss to South Carolina, which they've had several years in a row now. The getting Georgia at home or Georgia in any situation, he just plays Georgia tight and tough. And this is Georgia's first test in a true road game. Kentucky's defense, I think, is good enough. The key is going to be Vandergrift playing against his former roster, for the highly touted Georgia recruit to transfer to Kentucky, needs to be a lot better than he was against South Carolina. But to cover 24, they just need their defense to play well and not turn the ball over. And I think they can do that. So, my talent ratings have this game Georgia by 17. Respect for Kentucky at home under this coach. So maybe the wheels come off and Georgia just goes in and blows them out. But I think Kentucky covered this last year, if I recall, it was like 22, something like that. I think it's one of the bigger spreads Georgia's had at Kentucky. And just Kentucky's not the kind of team I want to bet against to the point where a team has to win by 4 scores. That's or 4 touchdowns. That's a tough ask of a Georgia team that's steady. It's not quite explosive. It can be explosive, but it's not naturally explosive. Like, you see its point totals in the 30s and 40s for a reason. It's not like Tennessee, right? Where without trying, they can put up 50 points because they're designed to be explosive plays. Georgia's designed to be a pro-style offense that keeps the ball, sustains drives, eats clock, keeps good field position, and can score against anybody, but doesn't tend to be 50-point plus out. I mean, even when they're playing Tennessee Tech, they don't put up 50. So it's just not a naturally explosive offense. And Kentucky, you give Stoops can prep and do well. And coaching-wise, I think he'll adjust. And they have enough personnel to contain Georgia. And if you're holding Georgia to say 34 points, then you only need 10 to cover this if it's 24 and a hook. So I think Kentucky can put that. And I'm also not completely convinced that what we saw from last week is what we're always going to get from Vandegrift. Because the irony is the week before, everybody was saying that about South Carolina. Oh, quarterback can't hit the right side of a barn. Should have lost Old Dominion, at home. Let's bail on him. What happens? He comes out the next week, hits a couple of big plays. Looks a lot better. Vandegrift was a 5-star recruit. I'm not yet sold that he's a complete bust. He had a bad game against a Beamer defense. Yeah. Beamer's defenses can do that to a lot of young quarterbacks. Now, Georgia's defense, real tough. They're going to have to scheme this up. They can't use that. If they use that Rutgers QB, well, good luck with that. I mean, then it's just going to be a slow-scoring tight game. The other thing is, what's the total in this game?
The total in this game is sitting at, let's see, let me pull it back up here. I was looking at the next one, but it's sitting at right now, we've got Georgia and Kentucky, 45.
So historically, low totals in the mid to low 40s, teams don't cover big spreads, which kind of makes sense. It's like, in fact, there's people who blindly bet that if a team is getting 3 touchdowns or more and the total is 45 or less, they bet the underdog. Yeah. Because what they're telling you is they think it's going to be 35-10, something right around there. Right. And that's hard to hit that exact number magically. So I think something more like 31-13.
Okay.
I'll take Kentucky in this one.
Okay, fair enough. I want to address this comment real quick here. Good to see you in here. It's a Loafbauer, I believe, says, how do you guys make any money on your picks? Barnes' free pick was a bust. All of your analysis on the picks didn't come close to paying out. Well, sir, I don't know what show you were watching because you were the only one that said that you did not make money last weekend. We all made money on the picks. And if you were a subscriber over at sportspicks.locals.com, you would have all of the official picks from Robert here, and you would have crushed it this past weekend, sir. So I'm not sure what you've been watching, but it's great to have you in here.
Exactly. Anybody who's a subscriber can look at all of our picks going back 3 years. Made money 3 years in a row. Exactly. So if you're not making picks, it's because you're either deaf or dumb. Which maybe live off or maybe both. Because
that's fair. That's fair. That could happen. That definitely could be the case.
But I always get a kick out of people that the trolls that step in that think they're making a point that they have no idea that the point is easily refuted and rebutted by observable evidence. So if you've been a member of Sports Picks, we've made money year after year after year. We're the most affordable, accessible, profitable handicapping service you will find out there anywhere. Most people sell their picks for $100 a pick. Ours go for about 10 cents a pick. And you can do with it whatever you want. You can use it to add to your bets. You can use it to lay off a bet. You use it however you want. Everybody does that. And we have all kinds of free picks that are put up by all kinds of handicappers across all kinds of sports, as well as politics. But I mean, last week, what was it, 13-2 or whatever we spent college football? I mean, it was just massive. So the NFL was profitable. We've been doing this now for, I think, 4 weeks this year. It's been profitable. That your bankroll would be up nearly 50% after just a month. So the trolls are in the wrong handicapping page.
You are in the wrong one. You go over there, use that promo code 2024-2024. You get half off monthly subscription. You come over there and see for yourself. Yeah, low exactly.
For basically $25, you're going to get 200 picks over the next month. I mean, we produce value at volume. You're not going to find anybody better at doing both anywhere in the entire handicapping space, because the main goal is to help educate people, give people an opportunity. It's not really a money-making business. It's more of how people can educate themselves and improve their ability to appreciate and understand these various sporting and political events. But it also certain mindsets. We do master classes on sports betting and political betting. That's also about learning skills that are applicable outside of the world of sports handicapping and political betting. But it's applicable to both. And so that it's more of a learning. It's a part of a community. We have live chats open all the time that people can hop in and out of. Give free picks all the time. The free picks I've given out on shows over the years have been profitable.
Oh yeah.
So does everyone hit? No. In fact, that's one of the things you learn. You're aiming for. If you're looking out there trying to figure out who's good or bad as a handicapper, see if they have some objectively verifiable mechanism of picks. With our sports picks, you can go back and look at every single pick that we've ever published, because it's all there on the locals page.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go all the way back to 3 years ago and see who we wanted, who we picked in, say, week 3 of 3 seasons ago. So all of that is available, accessible. You see it every week, so that there's an accountability mechanism present.
Mm-hmm.
But also listen to the content of the analysis and whether the predictions make sense or don't make sense. How good is the analysis?
Right.
Sometimes just the luck factors make it so that the nature of luck plays a major role in these various sporting events. Chance plays a major role. Talking about earlier with the Falcons games,
mm-hmm.
right? If you looked at just the luck factors, all the luck factors cut against the Falcons and in favor of the Steelers in a sufficient way that if you play that game 100 times, probably the Falcons win 60 out of 100 times. And so you're factoring out how luck is a variable, where that matters, where it doesn't matter. But if you hear somebody say they hit 65%, 70%, that person's lying.
Right.
There's nobody that hits at that rate and has volume. Or if they do, they give you 6 picks a year. Okay.
Right. And if you're that guy, you're one of the greatest handicappers of all time.
Right. And if you're, you're not selling your picks if you're in that situation.
Right.
Now, there's great people that hit 55% or better. There's not many in the industry, but there are several. There's people that are good. You can look at the content quality of their analysis to sort of help measure that. But, there's people like Stuckey over at the Action Network. Very good. People like Krakenberger, who has literally a crack crew of handicappers for him. Crack Wins app. One of the best, buddy of mine, one of the best all-time sports gamblers and bettors in the history of the country. If you're talking about NFL, Warren Sharp, Sharp football analysis. Find him on YouTube, find him in other places. One of the top sports handicappers in the NFL. He moves markets. He puts out a line moves a point and a half, 2 points. Just with him. Right Angle Sports, really good, smart NFL analysts. They put out college football picks too, have been pretty profitable for years. One of the biggest influencers in the market. Brad Powers, he does a channel. I think it's called Hit the Books. Very solid guy, gives you very interesting analysis. Tends to be an above average handicapper as well. So you have a range of people out there that are good versus bad. Could you clear up when subbing with the promo sub that we get grandfathered? Oh yeah. So anybody who becomes a member, you get grandfathered in at that rate. So a lot of Sports Picks members are in at like less than $10 a month because they joined at the beginning. We're keeping it as accessible and affordable for as many people as possible. If you go to Wager Talk, you're going to spend $200 for 1 month of one handicapper's picks who's going to give you 20 picks. Right? Mm-hmm. It's going to be at least $10 a pick at a minimum. And that's the prime example of handicapping, decently successful handicappers. But when they've been looked at, they're above average, but very few of them are profitable over time, right? Okay. They hit at 51%, 52%. You need to hit on average, if it's an even spread, even, minus 110 both sides, you need to hit it closer to 53% to be profitable. Really good handicappers are looking for 55%. They're looking for just those little edges that will give you profit over time. That's why you got to manage your bankroll right, all the rest. Manage that bankroll the right way. Teaches you financial discipline, teaches you investing discipline, and creates money-making opportunity. Every single year, every subscriber to Sports Picks has received more profit from the picks, even betting at as low as $10 a pick, than it costs them for their subscription. And that means they got all the master classes, all the advice, all the Q&As for free. So that's the value of sports picks.
All right. Yes, sir. That's what I did have some questions about. They were asking me about the grandfather, and I told them we would talk to you about it when we got you in here this week. We do have one more game that you wanted to cover, and then we'll get you out of here. I know you're a busy man. Probably got a lot to do today, but you talk about this UCF TCU game. Looks like UCF is going to be getting one on the road at TCU. TCU team that's kind of got a lot of question marks for me. I don't really know what to feel about this team just yet. They went out to Stanford in week 1, wound up only winning that thing by a touchdown there. Stanford came through, covered for us. But this UCF team's pretty good right here. And now you're going into Big 12 play. You travel on the road here. It's not an early kickoff. You're going to have to be a night game there. So what do you think on this one? I think I'm leaning UCF in this one.
You know, I mean, these teams from a talent perspective, dead even. And so the UCF has been a little more impressive earlier in the year than TCU, though TCU was mostly unlucky in that Stanford game. I was on Stanford, so I was thrilled at that backdoor field goal. God bless that coach for wanting to cover that spread.
That's right.
But under the hood, TCU was much more dominant than that final score reflected. My power ratings have TCU by 3 in this game. Okay. So at 1, it's a marginal call. It's Sonny Dykes. Any long-time college football bettor will tell you don't want to get in front of Sonny Dykes. Last year was a tough year, but it was one of the only non-profitable years that guy has ever had coaching in college football. On the flip side, Malzahn is tough. The key here is how much does the Arkansas transfer quarterback continue to click in that offense? On paper, he would be dominant. But let me see. I know in week 1 it was a little shaky, but that can happen. Let me see how they did with week 2. Sam Houston State, which is, an up-and-coming team, can be a live dog on a given night. But when UCF is a big favorite, they tend to beat the crap out of people. But let's see how KJ has done. See, this is what I mean. Like, yards per attempt, he's hitting the big plays, 11 yards per attempt in 2 early games against Cupcakes. But 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. So he's really not throwing the ball a ton. How is he running? Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, they're averaging 7.5 yards a carry. That's a classic Malzahn offense. What's the total in this game? I bet it's high.
Let's see. In this one, we're listening at 61.5.
So that's a little bit high for college football, but that still may be low. Because you look at these teams, TCU can be explosive. UCF's defense has always been shaky. This is their first real test. And it looks like a classic Malzahn offense that can, and it's not your run the ball, hold the clock. It's run the ball and explode for a touchdown. Kind of when Malzahn's cooking. So
Malzahn is one that will cover for the boosters too.
Yeah, he absolutely will. If TCU hits underdog, I'm betting TCU, and a slight lean towards the over the total, just because I still have doubts about Central Florida's offense. But if Jefferson is really clicking offensively, that offense is going to be dynamite all year. Central Florida was, one of my, along with Iowa State, a long shot to win the Big 12 because I thought they were underrated going into a very open conference. And, Arizona doesn't look as dominant as people thought. Utah without Cameron Rising would be a disaster, and that risk keeps popping up. So some of the teams that were Oklahoma State, I'm not sold on at all. If you want a live dog this week, or not a live dog, but a decent dog, Tulsa at home getting a bunch of points. Oklahoma State should have lost by 21 points last week. That was one of the most flukish wins I've ever seen. Even more flukish than the Chicago Bears beating the Titans.
Right.
I mean, it was just ridiculous, the luck they had in that game. But statistically, they got the crap kicked out of them. And I don't know if they should be that big a favorite against an in-state rival on the road in a Tulsa team that's overachieving 2 back-to-back covers. But I would lean TCU, but probably wouldn't take it unless it got to a pick 'em or TCU got to a dog status. Dykes is a dog, scary place to bet against him.
Yeah, I think so. I think I look more in that one. I look toward the total. I think I do kind of like the over there. I think, 34-27 when they played Stanford. And UCF's offense is going to be much better than that Stanford offense. They did score 27 points against this TCU defense. So I think if I'm looking at something leaning that one, I lean to the over 61.5 in that one there. Well, man, Robert, that was a good segment, man. We got quite a few games in there we talked about. Tell the folks about sportspicks.locals.com one more time and let them know where they can find us.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want the most affordable, accessible, value-based, and volume-based handicapping service anywhere, you can become a member at sportspicks.locals.com. Or you can just join and just, watch and see what you like. There's free picks put out all the time. There's live chats that are open throughout the football season, all year long. We put out I put out about 50 picks each week on between college football, pro football, and European or world football. So your whole bankroll is active every single week. Goal is to, eke out some profits slowly but steadily. So far up almost 50% on the year. Which is extraordinary at the rate we're going. Even small bettors are already paid back their subscription in just a few weeks. We got political bets that are up for the political betting markets. That there's a range of those across the betting space, and that's going to expand because a federal court ruled yesterday that the Biden administration cannot continue to prohibit those markets. So and those markets, you're going to see billions of dollars in those markets once they're fully legalized in the United States. Well, we give you options on spreads, on margins of victory, on candidate odds, on electoral college odds, you name it. Even giving out picks on what might happen in the presidential debate tonight. Who's going to wear what tie, who's going to wear what shirt, who's going to say what words, who's going to talk about what topics. So adds a little fun, a little excitement, a little energy. Always keep it manageable. Always keep it within money that you can afford to lose. But if you've been a member for a long time, you've not only got lots of value for what in terms of insights and information and master classes and Q&A sessions and all the rest, but you flat out made profits far more than what your subscription cost. One of the most affordable, accessible, available, value-driven handicapping services anywhere, where we help put the odds in your favor at sportspicks.locals.com.
Absolutely. As always, we appreciate you, Robert. I know you'll be back with us next week to break some of this stuff down. Shout out to the locker room over there in the chat. Everybody coming in here. We love y'all. Y'all are the real MVPs, and we appreciate you guys watching and putting in your comments and thoughts and all that stuff. So we will be back bright and early in the morning for the Sports Morning Espresso Shot at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 a.m. Pacific. And Robert will be back with us next week to break down some more of these football games in college and in pro. So we hope y'all enjoyed it today. Everybody smash the like button before you head out of here and give us a follow over on the channel. But we will see y'all bright and early in the morning. And until then, good luck, good gambling, and game on.